All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We've been experiencing some technical difficulties, and we're ready to resume our recessed meeting from Monday. Could I ask everybody to mute themselves, please? Thank you. And we are going to resume at item number 2 of the agenda, where we were dealing with conflict of interest. And I'm going to turn the chair over to Councillor Glant, as Councillor Roach is having technical issues, which we normally would pass to her. So with that, I will hand over the chair to Councillor Glant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to say I recognize the technical issues that we've ran into and the challenges of doing these things remotely. Hope the people at home can forgive us a little bit of the leeway for trying to do the job during this difficult time. And I just really want to remind council while I'm chairing that I do have you up on my big screen. I can see everybody, so let's make sure your video's on. If you want to speak, raise your hand. I will get to you. Please do not interrupt anybody or go beyond your time, and just listen to my direction at all times. So I'm going to be fair and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to have to gavel anyone or do any other such interventions. So let's be extra diligent and professional and disciplined for tonight's council meeting. Thank you. And I guess the first item that we wanted to address from our adjourned meeting or recessed meeting is the conflict of interest motion regarding, I guess, Bauline home office. It's my understanding that some of the looking back, some procedures weren't followed, and we're basically going to try to do a bit of a reset here and start over and do this all properly. So, Councilor Martin.
Are you ready for me, Councillor?
Yes, please proceed. Okay,
thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for Resolution 87-2020, where Council allow Mayor, Staff and Deputy Mayor to step out of the vote as it pertains to 438 Bauline line, application number BR 2020-004, a home office online sale of recreational vehicles due to potential conflict of interest. I do understand there were some rules and procedural issues, and I would therefore like to make a motion to rescind the motion that was presented and voted on Monday night. So moved.
Okay, looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a move by Councillor Martin, second by Tony Pollard. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I don't see any hands. Going once, going twice. Okay, I just want to give this. CAO.
I would ask the Director of Recreation and Community Services to speak to Councillor Roach to see if she would like to speak to the motion on the floor.
Thank you.
Councillor Roach just got disconnected, Don.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Deputy Clerk, if we could reflect that in the minutes, 6:54 p.m. that Councillor Roach left the meeting by technical disconnection.
Yes, I have that, Don. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any hands. So all in favor of rescinding the motion, please raise your hand.
All right.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 rescission, and I guess that's anonymous. So I'll give motion passes. Okay, now we're gonna get back. We're gonna officially do our official restart. We want to get the mayor and deputy mayor back for a moment.
So,
Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
okay, I guess how this came about for me was I was at the Planning Land Use Development Committee meeting last week, and this item came up. So I removed myself from the committee meeting in case there was a potential conflict. because the committee cannot determine if I'm in a conflict or not. Only council can do that. But I have an obligation, if there is a potential conflict, to step out of a committee, as do all members of council. And the reason I did that was because I received a letter, a discretionary use letter from the town about the business. So I knew that I was in the impacted area. So that was the reason why I did that. Now I'm asking council if I'm in a conflict, but I don't feel I am. And I have, my reasons for that is that, well, first of all, if I thought that the business was going to affect me, I would have responded to that letter that I received from the town with that concern that there was going to be some negative impact to me. And, secondly, since I've been living there, there's several home-based businesses in my area. There's a consulting company, there's a plumbing company, there's a garage, a full-service garage up the road. And none of that has had any negative impact on me. And there was no change in zoning for that particular property, no change in the residential character of the property. There's no sign going up saying there's a business there. I mean, it's a home office business. It's basically a mailbox for people to receive their mail. And we already clarified through planning land use that there's not going to be any on-site sales happening there. There's nothing. It's just a residential property where somebody has a home business. And, other types of businesses like this have been happening in my area since then. And I went and checked my assessments. My assessment has pretty much kept in line with the increases that the town has had over the last number of years. I checked from 2014 to 2020, and it's gone up like 11%. I think it's just consistent with everywhere else in the town with regards to assessment. So I don't see how there could be an impact on my property value. I just don't see it, because in my opinion, when you're talking about a conflict of interest, it has to be definitive and even perceived. But I don't know how anybody reasonable could perceive that somehow this house across the road from my place that is not going to have any impact. There's no sign, there's no nothing. It's just a house would have any impact on the property value of my house. Or any impact on me whatsoever. So anyway, that's all I got to say here.
Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I disagree with the mayor. I understand his reasoning and his logic and his points, but this home business is up for a vote for approval this evening. It is literally across the road from the mayor's house, which is 3 doors down from mine. And any potential risk for us to vote on anything that could have financial implications for us is grounds for conflict of interest. And it gives us the reason then to ask council, are we in a conflict? So from my perspective, I agree with the mayor, there are existing businesses in this area. However, before this comes to vote this evening in this meeting, I would like to have clarification and a motion from council to state if I am in a conflict of interest to vote on the application for 438 Bauline Line, the home business that will be discussed later on this meeting. So I would like to request that council have a vote to determine if there is a conflict of interest for me as a deputy mayor of the town to participate in that vote, please.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Council Meyer, I'll entertain a motion to state that the mayor and deputy mayor are in conflict and can step away from the vote for this home office.
Okay, just to clarify, Councillor Gallant, my connection wasn't great there. We are only voting for Mayor Scott and Deputy Mayor Appleby to abstain from voting on this decision. And once they have stepped away, we will then discuss if they are in a conflict or not and vote on it, correct?
Okay, that's the, yes, the right now, so they both have. So just hold on, Deputy, you don't have the floor right now. So Councilor Martin, since you're going to according to procedures I had with CEO and contact with the lawyer and all that stuff, both the mayor and deputy mayor got to get to speak, and now I'm entertaining a motion for you know, to put forward a motion that they are in conflict.
Okay.
And so I guess, Deputy, I guess at this point, you need to step back and leave everything, not taking discussions until the vote is over.
Point of clarifications, I'm not speaking for the mayor, I'm only speaking for myself. So I just want to be clear that I'm asking on my behalf if I am in conflict. That was just my point of clarification.
Yep. No,
Okay, thank you. I'll step away.
That was very, very clear that you're asking to be removed from the vote. But
Thank you.
I'll please remove yourself from the vote and refrain from speaking until this is all done. Councillor Martin, please put forward a motion you have.
Thank you. I will speak to it separately, but for protocol and the rules of order, I will put forward a motion for council to decide under section 209 of Municipalities Act if Mayor Scott and Deputy Mayor Appleby are in a conflict of interest or not with the application across their homes. I will move that. So moved.
Have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Councillor Pollard. And just a reminder, this motion as judged by the chair, I guess this is an affirmative motion. So we need a majority for it to be. If we get a majority vote, they are in conflict, right? So it's because we have to do it with well-formed motion to the positive. So
and can we all take a moment to speak to it, please, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, we're going to do that right now. So
okay, thank you.
Councillor Martin, as the mover of the motion, you get to speak first.
Okay, thank you. Following our meeting Monday night, I know we did vote a certain way, but our vote Monday night was not in order of our rules and procedure. I did my own independent communication with municipal affairs, and conflict of interest is very specific to monetary gain, and if there's a direct relation to the applicant. I feel, speaking as an independent councillor, after further consultation with municipal affairs, the mayor and deputy mayor are asking under section 209 for council to determine if they are or not in a conflict. If they were definitely sure, they could have put forward a request under section 208, but since it's not clear, it's gone to 209. So myself referencing back to section 207 of the Municipalities Act, I do not feel that there is a direct monetary gain or a relation to the applicant. To the best of my knowledge, I understand that some other members may have a concern of monetary loss, but I feel that is quite low. But I do appreciate that it's gone to council for confirmation under section 209, and I will be voting that they are not in a conflict of interest. Thank you.
You'll be voting to the negative for the motion, so they're not in conflict.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I think I had Councillor Pollard up next. Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Councillor Glenn. I tell you, I was probably one of the first ones to say I think that by virtue of having the business close by, they're both in conflict. And I've done a lot of thinking about it and review, and every conflict of interest I think that I've ever encountered has been different for different reasons. As for direct monetary interest, I don't think that is the benchmark that needs to be done. It's also, perceived monetary interest and even indirect monetary interest by an action or something like a development or something along those lines. The challenge that I personally face on responding to this is I'm leaning two ways. I'm leaning split vote, one way, one the other way, mainly because Deputy Mayor says that she feels she's in conflict. So by that, I would say, yes, she's in conflict. The Mayor says he's not in conflict, and by that, I would say that he is in conflict, or he isn't in conflict. And try to bring it back to what the impact of a vote would be. So if a person thinks they're in conflict and can't vote honestly, I think the onus is on them to walk away from and say, I am in conflict, and say, I'm not going to vote on that. Where they vote ask for a ruling, it's hard to rule when one person thinks they are and one person thinks they're not, to say that either or actually exists. And you know, okay, so the mayor says, I'm not in conflict. I don't think I'm in conflict because there's no impact on me. So he votes affirmative, then everything's hunky dory. If he said the same thing and then he voted negatively, he could be challenged outside and potentially be in conflict of interest. So it's not an easy discussion to have. So I guess I'm just going to have to wait to reserve a vote, but I think the two votes should be separate, and I think by virtue they could potentially be in conflict. That's my own thoughts on it.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Pollard. And CEO, just a point of order, just if anyone goes over time, just send me a little chat and I'll make sure these framed it. I thought you guys were over time. Okay, Councillor Mary Thorne-Goss, would you like to have the floor? You gotta unmute yourself first. Councillor Thorne-Goss, you're muted.
Figured if there's any way, Councillor Glenn, to keep me muted, you would. Anyway, no, I just want to make sure that I know which way the vote is going. So if you were in agreement with this for vote, you're basically saying yes, that they are in conflict. Is that correct?
A vote to the affirmative means they are in conflict. The vote to the no means they're not.
Okay. I tend to agree with Councillor Pollard in that these are two separate individuals and each one should be dealt with on their own merits, because where one person is saying that they are in conflict and one isn't, to lump the two of them in together seems a little unfair. That's just my personal opinion. So I'll just put that there.
Thank you, Councillor Thorne-Goss. Councillor Pollard, I'm going to briefly speak to the issue, so I'm going to turn the chair over to you. Please rein me in if I get out of hand.
Certainly, go ahead.
Thank you. Speaking to this, I have some very strong feelings about this. We were all voted in to give our vote. It's the one thing that we have to do. I've always said lots of times, I don't care how people vote. Just make sure you got to come up. There's hard decisions, and you got to make them, right? That's what people put you in here for, right? And you know, this the one thing they can get you kick off council is not refusing to vote, right? You're getting conflict with refusing vote type of thing. If no one themselves nor their direct family has any financial interest in direct financial interest in companies being set up or anything like that, I think that's what conflict is. If you can have that, if you don't have that, it's okay. If the intent of conflict of interest were to make sure people in the general vicinities of things like this were the case, it would certainly be spelled out like that, I think. And it's a very dangerous precedent to set, because we have to make sure that people vote, right? That's what we're here for. If we you take this as the lawyer mentioned in his where'd you go, in this email, basically it's highly unlikely there's a conflict with very limited information to challenge. If that were the case, I mean, people and councillors who live in downtown St. John's wouldn't be able to vote on things like hotels being put up there in their neighborhood. So I mean, and this is especially small town, and I think it's very, very important that everyone vote like this. There's no conflict of interest to me. It's quite clear, and we shouldn't be afraid of some type of frivolous, unlikely thing to happen. Anyone that would challenge something like that, if you're in the general vicinity, wouldn't have a leg to stand on. And I think it's super important to vote. And that's, I don't know what else we gotta say. We don't care what side you're on things, but you gotta come forward. You gotta vote. If there's no conflict, there's no obvious conflict, then we gotta do it. So, okay. And with that, I guess I'm finished. Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Councillor. Take the chair back.
Okay, I'll resume the chair. At this point, everyone's had a chance to speak to the issue. Councillor Martin, would you like to speak to the issue a second time since you moved the motion, or call the question?
Yes, thank you. I would like just a point of clarification from CAO per rules procedure. Is it, Councillor Pollard and Thorin Goss did raise a legitimate concern there. Although my view will stay the same, that they aren't in conflict, for proper rules procedure, should we rescind this motion and do two separate motions, one for the mayor and one for the deputy mayor, that they are or are not in a conflict? Please clarify.
I spoke to the lawyer regarding that matter based on Monday night. And because they both live in the same neighborhood, it was of the opinion of the lawyer that they could be both, it could be conflict for both of them could be addressed in the one motion. They wouldn't need to be separated out.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank you, CEO. Are you finished, Councillor Martin?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call the question. All those who feel that the mayor and deputy mayor are in conflict of interest, say A. Show your hands. Okay, one person thinks it. Councillor Goss, okay. Or just, sorry, Councillor Pollard's in the affirmative. So anyone that thinks they are not in conflict of interest, please show of hands. Okay, that's 1 4 3 against. So the motion fails. So deputy mayor and mayor are not in conflict of interest, and allow them to come back into the meeting now.
Mr. Chair, I have two other potential conflicts I'd like to raise, please.
Two other potential conflicts at this time, really?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do we want to take care of the quarry conflict first?
Yeah, sure. If you want to do that, that's fine. I just wanted to note that I have two this evening that I didn't want to miss. That's all.
Sure. Okay, but we'll do it because I guess the first one was kind of in order of operations, was brought up on Monday. So, Mr. Mayor, do you want to say anything? Do you have anything to declare?
Well, I guess if the deputy mayor is going to question whether she's in conflict on the quarry and we live in the same area, then I would have to ask the same question of council. And for the same reason, I don't think that I am. And if I had thought I was in conflict on that application, I would have declared it long time ago, when it would have been easy for me to get out of making that tough decision last term of council that I did do. And I think, and I did some, preliminary research of my own with actual factual numbers regards to the assessment of my house. So since I've been in there, like I said, my assessment has gone up the same rate as other people in the town. Since between 2016 and 2020, my property value has gone up almost $44,000, and that's with two quarries operating in there. And I just don't see it. I understand the fact that looking out from my front doorstep, I can see those quarries there. I can see the one that's there now. It's it's quite visible. The whole side of the bank is out of there. I can see that from my doorstep. So I don't see it making any real difference in terms of the additional work that's going to be done in there. That's just my opinion. I don't see it. And, I think that I benefited more from things that the town put in Upper Tree Corner Park than anything else. So I think that I'll leave it at that. I don't see any effect to me personally, financially, with regards to housing values. I know it's always subjective to what it is, but from what I did, my research, and it's all online from Municipal Assessment Agency, is that my value of my property has been pretty consistent. So I'm not concerned about it at all. So that's basically, I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor, if you have anything to add, would you like to be? Would you like council to rule that you, as well as Mr. Scott, are potential or are in conflict with regards to the
Mr. Chair, I would like an opportunity to speak to that, please, if I could.
Yep, this is your opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll agree with the mayor that the information was not clear for us to understand that initially. neither one of us are engineers or have a technical background to, no, I don't, I can't speak for the mayor, but to read these things and understand exactly the GPS coordinates of where it's going to be. But as the level of information became more clear, and it became known to me that this quarry is square across from my property, and it's just over 600 feet from my house and the mayor's house. So with blasting, with fly rock, with potential any sort of fracture to wells, the increased amount of dump trucks that could be back and forth on Bauline line, which is the road that services our community here, our neighborhood. You need to go out, please, Jake. Sorry. No, I'm on a council meeting, but not right now. Sorry, my friend. I love you, but I can't do it. So the thing is, from me, it's the direct view from my home, and the mayor lives up the street, but I don't see those quarries. I don't see them from my current home right now. And 600 feet from here, there will be a quarry development in the hill that I look at that's green and gorgeous and beautiful, which is what we as a town have worked so hard to make sure that we are going to protect. And that's why we have the pieces in our municipal plan about 15% slope and protecting conservation areas. So I feel very strongly against the quarry. There's no question. I'd love to vote on it, but I have to ask the question, am I in conflict when my property is a 600 meter distance from this quarry development, and it's right in the line and will impact the view from my home, which may have a very direct impact on the value of my home. So again, I will ask council to decide if I am in a conflict of interest position for this vote. And then depending on what council's decision is, I will respect that and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
At this point in time, I would like to ask the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to step away from the meeting. And again, I will call, I guess, Councillor Martin to put forward a motion that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor are in conflict of interest for the Bauline line quarry application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put forward a motion whereas Council will vote under Section 209 of the Municipalities Act if Mayor Craig Scott and Deputy Mayor Trina Appleby are indeed in a conflict or not, as they are in doubt as to whether or not they have a monetary interest or under Section 207 of the Municipalities Act. I put forward the question, so moved for debate and vote. So moved.
We have a mover. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Yep. Councillor Pollard seconds the motion. Councillor Martin, if you have anything to say, feel free to speak to the motion there.
Thank you. I will speak to this motion again following our start of our meeting on Monday night. As I did mention on the last item, I did consult with Municipal Affairs for my own understanding and personal knowledge, in addition to any information that CAO may have done on behalf of the town. With regards to the quarry application, it's clear that as Mayor Scott and Deputy Mayor Appleby did ask for a decision of council under Section 209, it's clear that there's no direct conflict of interest under Section 208. I will vote no, that they are not in a conflict of interest. The Municipalities Act is very specific when it comes to conflict of interest under Section 207. There's no real monetary interest, and there's no relatives involved, to the best of my knowledge. I know I did speak to CAO on an off note. At CAO, feel free to interject if I say something that I've interpreted wrong from our conversation, but I understand that our solicitor advised us that the only definite way to confirm if the mayor or deputy mayor are in a conflict would be to defer the application for the quarry and have a third-party property assessment done for council's consideration. So I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough evidence there to vote to defer the application. If someone wishes to do so, they can. But I will, as you mentioned earlier, it's council's duty and due diligence to vote, and especially this being one of the most contentious files that's been in the history of the town. I think it's very important for all to be involved, and I will not be supporting the motion that they are in conflict. Thank you. And Councillor Grant, you're muted.
To myself. Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Thorngoss or Councillor Pollard, would you like to speak? Going once.
You want to go, Mary, or
Just putting on any other comments? Councillor Pollard, you have the floor.
I guess the same commentary I had the last time is, and I guess we'll review this somewhere down the road. I certainly can't vote any differently than I did when I see a small business across the street and I voted that I thought they would be in conflict. So I can't see how I can do anything other than this for a large quarry across the way. I go back to my concern overall. I think that is the councillors' decisions that they have declared themselves in conflict, and then council decides whether or not they actually are, if there's any doubt at all. But I mean, one person thinks that they are and thinks going to increase or decrease the value of their house, then I think that person is actually in conflict. How do we separate the two when they're almost identical? They're neighbors, just about neighbors, and the same impacts on one has impact on the other. So, and to the fact that it is one of the most contentious issues, I'm stuck at being in this position. I'm not too happy being put in this position to have two folks living right next to it, and for me to say, I don't necessarily think they should be able to vote on it, but I got to try to separate those two issues overall. So I think I will end up saying that they are in conflict or potential conflict.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillor Thorngoss, you have the floor.
I'd like to know what section 207 actually says there, Councillor Martin. Do you have that there?
I do. I can share my screen if CAO would like me to. If CAO would like to stop sharing her screen, I can share my screen. I have the act right up on my screen if you wish.
Let's hope we don't lose. I don't know if I can.
Or CAO, it may be more beneficial, CAO, if you bring up the Municipalities Act and go to section 207. Then you can view section 207, 208, and 209, which is applicable to this motion.
Yeah, I would suggest, based on the technical difficulties we had on Monday.
Yeah. Okay.
Just read out. Let's not try to do any high wire acts with switching screens and stuff like that. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah. If you do want me to read it out, I can, or the CAO can bring it up and share it on the screen, whichever is preferable. Is fine with me.
I have the legislation here in front of me. I can read it out. There's 3 sections pertaining to conflict of interest: 207, 208, and 209.
Yeah. 207 is the actual definitions, and then 208 and 209 are if a councillor can declare a direct conflict. If they and then 209 is if they're unsure. 209, in my opinion, is what we're voting on now. The mayor and deputy mayor are asking for a decision under section 209 if they are or not in a conflict. So 207 is the actual definition, but I'll pass it over to you now.
Okay, so 207, subsection 1, a councillor shall not vote on or speak to a matter before the council or a committee of council where A, the councillor has a monetary interest in the matter distinct from an interest arising from his or her functions as a councillor. B, the councillor has a monetary interest directly or indirectly in the matter. C, a relative of the councillor has a monetary interest in the matter, or D, the councillor is an officer, employee, or agent of an incorporated or unincorporated company or other associations of persons that has a monetary interest in the matter. Subsection 2, for the purpose of subsection 1, a relative of a councillor means a father, mother, spouse, cohabitating partner, sister, brother, child, stepchild, ward, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, or brother-in-law of the councillor. Subsection 3, for the purpose of subsection 2, A, cohabitating partner means a person with whom a councillor is living in a conjugal relationship outside the marriage, and B, spouse means a person to whom a councillor is married unless the person and the councillor have a separation agreement or their support obligations and family property have been dealt with by a court order. Subsection 4. In order for an interest to be considered as one falling within the prohibition set out in subsection 1, it shall be an interest distinct from an interest held in common with the other citizens or classes of citizens of the municipality.
Okay,
Thank you.
CEO. Does that fill your question, Councilor Thorngass? You got another minute left.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Then anyone? Okay, we're good. So I guess we'll call the question. All those in favor of that the mayor and deputy mayor are in conflict for the core application, please say aye and show your hands.
I just want to make sure. So if they are, you're asking the question now, if they are in conflict?
Yeah, yeah. So to the affirmative means they are in conflict, just like the previous motion. So anyone thinks they are in conflict, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Councilor Pollard, Councilor Thorngass, the affirmative. Anyone they're not in conflict, raise your hand. Negative. Okay, so
Aye.
and Councilor Martin. So again, same as last time, it's a tie vote, so the motion fails. So at this point in time, I'd like to invite Deputy Mayor and Mayor back into the meeting. Okay, and now I guess it's my honor to I guess. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I can pass back the chair now because I guess it's only Deputy Mayor that has one more conflict to speak of.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to turn the chair back over to you.
Great, thank you.
Question.
Yes,
Question.
Yeah.
I guess to say it was Councillor Pollard and myself that were, I guess, against saying that there was a conflict. And that would have left two more councillors to say that there was no conflict. So to me, that's 2 and 2.
That's it. Yeah, tie vote is a negative, right?
Excuse me, the mayor should not be on this side of things now as well. We're talking about it again. Sorry, Mayor
Need
Scott.
to get up,
That's
I
the
need to
point.
get
I'm just going to the vote was a tie. It's 2-2, so it failed. So I'm going to move on and pass the chair back to Councilor Scott and invite him to come back.
Okay, so for clarity, you're saying that the motion failed, so they're not in conflict, right? So you're going to let them know they're not
Correct.
in conflict.
Yeah, so the motion failed, tie vote. Unless someone can tell me the
Thank you.
CEO, please clarify. Unless I missed something for the last 11 years on council. Right, you need the majority +1. So I'll bring back the mayor and deputy mayor.
okay.
Yeah, pass it back. Thank you everyone for being well behaved, and thank you, Councilor
Thank you,
Scott.
and thank you, everybody. I think that you guys, anyway, whatever you're doing, you obviously made your decision, and I thank you. And I guess we're moving on. You found that are you going to inform us of what the results
Not in a
were?
conflict. You're not in a conflict.
The vote was a tie vote 2-2, so the motion that you're in conflict failed.
Thank you.
Can you tell us how it's a 2-2 vote?
Sorry, it was the record reflects that it was Councilor Glant, Councilor Martin were nays, and Councilor Thorngass and Councilor Pollard were yays. So it was a tie.
We lost Councillor Roach earlier on the phone.
So to be very clear, and I'm happy to vote on anything here, but if I do vote, I'm not voting now in a conflict. Council has decided that I can vote here. So that's the reason I'm able to vote here, and I'm protected by that, correct?
You are
Under section 209.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So the deputy mayor has the floor, and I'll respond. So I guess until the official chair tells us this is settled. But both the mayor and deputy mayor have declared a potential conflict. They put it to council. Council made a ruling, and according to the best of my knowledge, that you guys are now protected under one of the sections. CEO, you can read out that section. I guess the lawyer quoted. I don't have that in front of me, but you guys are now. Yeah, you're fine. You did all the right things, and we followed the process to the best of my knowledge properly. So I think we're now free and clear to talk about everything else in the package.
No, I have one more conflict, Mr.
All
Chair.
right. Okay, so hang on now before anybody. Can everybody just mute themselves for a second? Am I resuming the chair now? Yes. Okay, thank you. Councillor Thorngass.
What about Councillor Roach? Did we forget about her, or did she not come back?
We lost her. She's having technical problems out, and she's,
Okay.
yeah. She was trying to join by video, and it wouldn't work. The internet connection wasn't great, and then she was joined by phone, but I guess that didn't work out for her either. So she left the meeting earlier.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, you said you have another potential issue that you want to discuss?
I do, Your Worship. The Youth Ventures motion under Economic Development. I'm a member of the CBDC Cabinet Board of Directors, and the Youth Ventures program is going to will happen under that umbrella. So I need to again ask Council if there is a conflict there, and if there is a conflict, to remove myself from the vote for that, and ask that Councillor Martin take over. But I want to make sure that it's flagged and clear that I do sit on that board of directors, and as a board member, I certainly don't want to participate in a vote that could have any potential for conflict. So I wanted to raise that and ask the question of Council, please.
Okay. So
I can remove myself from the meeting if you would like.
yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we need to get a motion for this. Can someone put forward a motion, please?
I'd put forward a motion to for council to determine under section 209 of the Municipalities Act if Deputy Mayor Appleby is in a conflict of the economic development motion regarding youth ventures. So moved. And Mayor Scott, I don't know if I'm out of order in asking this, but I was curious to ask the Deputy Mayor if her role with CBDC is a volunteer or paid position. I'm not sure. I would think that under monetary legislation under 207, we would need to know. That's just my question to you.
I think that a board is specifically spelled out in the Act. So I think, in my opinion, it would fall under it. Right. So an employer or an agent of an incorporated or unincorporated company or a board, I think that is in it. So I don't know. CAO?
So Mayor, you're referencing section 207, correct?
No, I'm referencing our council's rules of procedure.
Oh, I see. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, not to armchair chair here, but we got to move it. We just get a seconder so we make an official discussion so we don't lose track.
Seconder, Councillor Pollard, second. He was asked a question prior to his motion, so.
So Mayor, to Councillor Martin's question under section 207, subsection 1, part D, the councillor is an officer, employee, or agent of an incorporated or unincorporated company or other association of persons that has a monetary interest in the matter. So in our rules and procedure pertaining to conflict, that's right direct out of the legislation. So it's the same language.
All right. Okay, so motions, anybody want to speak to that motion?
I'll speak to it very briefly, if you don't mind. Okay. So just to reconfirm that what exactly is the motion? I just want to make sure that there is the board that she serves on is in the monetary interest. Is that the fact?
The request from Youth Ventures to the town looking for support, which this program is administered under the CBDC board, and which deputy mayor is a member of that board.
So
So there is-
the board is administrating the organization, which is asking us for money.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then this, I think since it's, well, I think CEO has something to say. I'll yield the floor to CEO.
Yeah. Don?
Mayor, on the screen there, I've referenced under the Economic Development and Tourism Report, the actual motion. It's about waiving fees for youth that are starting their own business. Youth Ventures program does have funding to support young entrepreneurs. And on an annual basis, they do write municipalities that if we had a young entrepreneur come to the town looking for waiving of business application and all related fees. So it's for ages 16 to 27. So it's Youth Ventures. The CBD Youth Ventures is an arm or an umbrella. It's underneath the CBDC, which the deputy mayor sits on as a board member.
All right, thank you. I don't know, to me, it seems pretty clear. I think we had this motion before, since the deputy mayor's been on council and she's been sitting on that board, and we've, at that time, I believe, granted her the, that she was indeed in a conflict. So does anybody else have anything to say to that? Okay, or Tony?
Tricky one, because as you know, it's always a youth ventures. It's a non-profit, non-charitable organization and all that, and everyone gets their head muddled up because of something as beneficial as a volunteer group. I got to vote the same way I voted last time, in conflict. I know I'm going to face it myself coming up when I'm on volunteer boards and the different scenarios, and I had previous discussions with outside sources that it's marginal that you're not in conflict but there's no direct benefit, things along those lines. So I'm going to say stay on the course where I am. So I'm going to vote that she is in conflict, no different than I did the other two. So everyone else can vote as they feel. It's not a big hill to die on this one anyway. So
all right, anybody else? Councilor Martin?
Thank you. As CEO did reference the board exec right from Section 207 of the Municipalities Act, it's cut and dry that she is in a conflict. So I will vote that she is in a conflict.
All right, good enough. Do anybody else need to speak to this, or can we go ahead and vote? All right, call the question. All in favor that she's in conflict? Okay, unanimous. Don? Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you can come back.
Thank you.
All righty. Holy moly, boys. I don't know if that was a good idea to put all this conflict stuff right at the beginning of our agenda. Maybe we should go back to dealing with them at the time when they arise. Anyway.
Mayor, you should advise Deputy Mayor as to the decision.
Oh, yes, it was unanimous that you were in conflict on that one, Deputy Mayor. Okay. All right. Holy moly. Oh, we're just getting started. Proclamations, presentations, Q&A session. We didn't receive any emails the other day for the first Q&A session. We have received some for the end, so we'll save them to the end.
Your Worship, I could ask a question about that.
Yeah.
It says right here in the beginning of our meeting agenda that residents and public will have the option to ask questions or make comments before or during the council meeting by emailing dchaplain@torbay.ca.
Right.
So why are we not doing a Q&A now before any of the vote?
Because we're continuing. This is a continuation of our meeting that we started on Monday night. It's not a new meeting. And at that point, when the meeting started, we did not have any questions submitted.
But
so
this is
why.
during the meeting?
During the meeting, they submit. Okay. During the meeting, they submit them and we answer them at the Q&A session at the end. We don't stop our middle of our council meeting to answer questions.
The question I have, though, we have residents who have sent emails pertaining to the quarry. They responded when it came in on Friday via email. We have the correspondence. I was advised by residents today that the CAO is in receipt of those emails with questions. And I believe those are pertinent questions that should be answered and raised before the vote, so all of council can be aware of the concerns and the questions of residents. And when I speak to this motion, I will speak to the fact that residents weren't listened to when the last term of council, they raised their voices. So
all right.
I would like to request that
Can-
the emails, if we
can I
follow
answer your
what we have
question?
here and advertised, that if emails are received
Deputy
before
Mayor,
or during the meeting, that we acknowledge them before the vote, please.
Deputy Mayor, I'm going to answer your question. When we convened our meeting on Monday, our regular meeting, Don, did we have questions at the time when I asked?
There was no questions provided to me asking for it to be tabled as part of the council meeting.
Do you have any
Okay.
now?
If she has them now,
I do have, and I did advise the mayor that we did have questions, and pending the outcome of the conflict vote, that I would provide them to him for the second Q&A. And I also advised that Councillor Glent, pending the outcome of the conflict vote, that there would be questions for the Q&A at the end. I have
So
two
why is
emails.
it at the end if we haven't had Q&A yet?
excuse me,
Because it's during the meeting is what we have advertised.
Deputy Mayor, excuse me, order, please. I already explained it to you. When we started this meeting is a continuation of the prior meeting. It's not a new meeting.
But we hadn't had questions and they didn't have a Q&A at that point. We're doing it now.
We
It
did.
seems to me that we're not listening to the residents again, and I'm very concerned about that. So I would ask that the questions that we currently have, we bring them forward for the Q&A,
Please. The advice we have for municipal affairs is that this is one meeting from start to finish. At the beginning of our meeting, when people needed to submit questions on Monday, at the time of, we didn't have any questions submitted.
But your worship, it says during in the package, and
Yes,
during doesn't say that it has to be the second Q&A.
Excuse me.
We had passed the Q&A.
Order, please. Excuse me, can I speak? Order.
You can. I'm asking residents.
When we're at a public council meeting, can you please listen? When we're at a public council meeting and nobody puts their hand up for a question and answer session at the beginning, we don't stop in the middle of our council meeting to let residents answer questions until we get to the Q&A session at the end of the meeting, according to our rules of procedure and our agenda. I mean, that's how it works.
So, Mr. Mayor,
We are operating under COVID.
Hand up here.
We are operating under COVID, and it says during, and residents should be heard. I'll end my point there, but I think it's wrong to not listen to residents.
Are you suggesting? Hang on for a second.
I'm suggesting that any questions that have been submitted up to now are accepted in this Q&A, so that those questions and those concerns are heard before any votes is what I'm suggesting.
Well, just hang on for a second. I got to get some advice here from Deputy Mayor, from the CAO on our rules.
Do this meeting different than we are any other meeting?
I have a point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Hang on.
Mayor?
Could you please get control of the meeting and chair it properly? And
Councillor Glenn, hang on first.
I don't want to see anyone get themselves will be thrown out. It's
difficult to chair when people are not listening, when I ask for order. Councillor Thorngoss.
Why are we going to change our rules right in the middle of a meeting that's gone on? We're not basically started and we're an hour and 15 minutes already into it, and we're going to change the way that we've done the meetings right up to this point again, as if we didn't have a controversy enough, and now we're going to change the way that we do our meetings. And you had a question and answer period on Monday night. That's what you just said, and I guess it's being refrained from being listened to. So I'd like for you to carry on with the meeting as where you just finished.
Thank you. All right, so any questions? Councillor Glenn?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I tried to make a point of order earlier, and let's just say you're lucky you're chairing the meeting, and this didn't happen when I was chairing the meeting. Just guys, let's just get to the business of the town. Let's go forward. Let's not try to do any delays. Please, I'm pleading with you. Let's just go and do our jobs. Let's stop bickering about procedures, stuff like that, and do the real things. And Mr. Mayor, I fully hope that you make sure that people have the floor going forward before they speak. Gavel, let's just move forward. This is starting to get embarrassing again, please.
Thank you. So just to address what the deputy mayor said about the message on the top of our thing, that people can submit questions during the meeting. Yes, they can submit questions during the meeting after the meeting has started, and they'll be addressed at the Q&A session at the end of the meeting. And that's what we'll do. Right? So, moving on. We have proclamation.
Can you please put it on the record that I asked that question verbatim? Why
Sure.
we did not accept the correspondence that had been received, even though we're going into the Q&A, why we did not accept that before we conducted the votes this evening, so council could be aware of the residents' concerns.
Very good. Noted. And I already gave you the answer. So, move on. Proclamation for Municipal Awareness Day. Someone want to read that out, please? Anybody?
I'll take it, Your Worship. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Proclamation for Municipal Awareness Day, June 24th, 2020. Whereas municipal government is responsible for the provision of services that enhance the quality of life of its citizens, and whereas dedicated mayors, councillors, and staff are essential for the effective governance of their municipalities, and whereas citizen involvement is essential for the active community, and whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize and encourage the contribution of all who work diligently for the improvement of our municipalities, therefore be proclaimed that June 24th be known as Municipal Awareness Day of municipalities.
Can I do that part?
Newfoundland.
Can I do that part, Tony?
That's why I stopped. You didn't jump in.
Therefore, be it proclaimed that June 24th, 2020 be known as Municipal Awareness Day in municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, in recognition of the vital role of municipal government and in recognition of all whose efforts support it. So move. Anybody want to speak to this proclamation? Or are we just going to vote on it? Move on.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
I'll call the question, yeah.
Okay. Unanimous, Don. Thank you. No presentations. As we previously stated, when this meeting started, we didn't have any questions submitted. Mayor's report. You know what? I got a bunch of crap here for my mayor's report. I'm just going to forego it. We're well into this meeting now, so just move on. I'll just say that I had a lot of stuff to do in the last 2 weeks. I got 2 pages worth of a report there that I'll present at some point. Business rising report. Anybody have any things on there that you want to talk about?
I have one.
Yep.
I'm just curious about the Skipper's Landing.
Which number is it, Deputy Mayor?
MD 03122019. That's a concern that's been brought up to me with the stormwater management with the residents about what's happening over there. And it says here that we've had the ditching, but I'm just looking for an update on where we are with the stormwater management piece, because I don't have anything on that. And now is the season we want to start looking at it. So I'd just like to get an update for residents on where we are on that, please.
Okay. Director Winter?
Yep. 1 sec there. Yeah, so that's one of the many things I've got on my list to be doing. So we have started some minor ditching around, and I've got Progressive Engineering who did the stormwater management plan. They're looking at at that now, and we're hoping to get some of that work done this summer. There is money budgeted for that as well.
All right, thank you.
And Your Worship, just one more question on that.
Right.
But there's another item here. I don't have the number right offhand, but it's Councillor Pollard here about the ATVs and dirt bikes in the community. And the number for that is MD 033822019. I know that we've had a number of residents who've been very concerned, especially in subdivisions, about the use of motorized vehicles. And I know that we've shared some communications, and thank you to the Department of Public Works for the work that you've done to sweep the streets and get the rocks off it again. But can I get an update on what we're doing around that? Because that is a very real safety concern with small children in those communities. And I just wanted to get an update for the public as well, but where we are on that, if you could. Thank you.
I think that you're talking about the ATVs themselves, right, on the roads?
I'm talking about, yes, all the motorized vehicles that are being
Okay.
used in the community.
All right. CAO?
Mayor, we have a ongoing resident communications regarding ATV education, what is and what isn't permissible. We also have the RNC engaged. It's my understanding that they've been doing increased patrols in particular in Forest Landing subdivision, and we've also had a recent issue with Anstey's Cove, that subdivision as well too. So the commissioners, as we become aware of issues, there's a request for increased patrols, and from both the commissioners and the RNC perspective. It's unfortunate it's only the RNC that can enforce that issue, but commissioners are trying to track speeds and take pictures as well, and forward any information along to the RNC for follow-up and investigation. I would, if it's okay, would also like to speak to the stormwater management question as well. Under the climate change mitigation, there's a recommendation regarding a pilot project for solar panels to be installed at the town hall, and I know that motion is coming forth. There's also the potential to engage a engineering PhD student that will look at stormwater management plan as well. We did talk about the implementation and the budget resources allocated to that in this year's budget at the senior management meeting on Tuesday morning. So there will be more information coming back through committee regarding that from recommendation from the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I think I would add that, council is aware that all 11 municipalities on the Northeast Avalon did agree to an MOU with the RNC for us to purchase 4 new vehicles for traffic patrol, which are the people that look after that thing. And to date, haven't received an update on that yet, where it's to. I know that everybody agreed to do it, but there seems to be some hang up with the provincial government. So I'm going to be sending some emails tomorrow or the next day. I actually sent an email to the Minister of Finance and to the Minister of Justice a few months ago, I believe, and we didn't receive a reply. So we're going to follow up on that and speak to Mayor St. John's and see if they've got any update yet from that. But it'd be nice to be able to get that done. Thank you. Any other items on that? Councillor Torngas.
Just got a question there for CAO. Do our commissioners have dash cams? At least that way, if there's the motorized vehicles and that on the road, at least they would have a video. So I'm not sure if they do or not.
Yes, they do, Councillor Thorngas, and they've used video footage. They have submitted video footage to the RNC in the past and will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any items on that, Councillor Martin? You're muted, buddy.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry, I'll be brief. I did have noted on my go around talk about this, but since it's relevant now, in addition to items already discussed, it's come to my knowledge from a resident that there is heavy frequency of ATV use on the trails down around Torvey Beach and so forth. And there's been a couple of close calls where ATVs have almost ran into some hikers. So I know anyone that is afraid to report it to the RNC, always call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-222-TIPS to do it in confidence. I am going to ask at our next public safety meeting, at our next planning meeting, sorry, to speak to the commissioners about how they can adapt their extra patrols on the beach and whatnot. I'm not sure if they can get out and walk the trails or not from time to time, but and see what condition they're in, see if there's a peak and whatnot. But also it's come to my attention that there's an increased amount of juvenile and preteen teenagers using ATVs, not using any helmets or anything. So parents really need to pick up the slack and be more cognizant of their kids when they're using these, if they're allowed to be using them, if they're supervised or not, because it's only a matter of time before something tragic happens. So I just want to make an emphasis on that and let everyone know that we are indeed working on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I was only talking the other day about how nobody ever asked us any questions on the Business Rising report. Now we've got a bunch tonight. Hopefully,
everyone dreamt about it.
I know. Hopefully, we're going to revamp this and look at doing it in a different form so that the items on that agenda are pushed off the committee, so they show up on a committee report instead. But anyway, just a heads up that I'll be bringing that forward to a committee whole meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I've got to
Yes.
take a quick step up. I didn't know. I got to step away for like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. I'll step away. Do not do the PLUD committee meeting anything without me. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I got to do a bathroom break. I didn't know it was a filibustering process, right?
All right. Okay. So Anne can make note of Councillor Glant left the meeting. We have correspondence here from Municipal Assessment Agency. We'll send it off to Finance. We got another one here, guidance document from about COVID-19, and another one from another COVID-19 one about municipalities. So we'll forward them all on to their proper departments, and they'll deal with them.
Mayor, the first document would go to Infrastructure Public Works. The director already has a copy of that correspondence.
Okay.
And the alert levels, we will ensure that if it's not already posted to the town's resource on our website, that we'll have that posted as well too.
Okay. And of course, we get these, we've had these for a while, so we've already acted on them anyway.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Committees of Council, Committee of the Whole report, meeting minutes for June 8, 2020. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Thorngas, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Your Worship,
Yeah.
sorry, I couldn't hit mute in time. I do have one omission.
Yeah.
Under item 4 for the quarry application.
Oops, hang on. Yeah.
It says here the council requested an update and an invitation to attend the planning. But the reason for that was because we were advised at that time that there were still items outstanding on that application by CAO. So I would like to have it added into the minutes here that council requested an update on the quarry application. And we were advised that there were items still outstanding as of that date. And then the invitation was requested to attend the planning land use development meeting after that.
Right.
Because that was what happened, and it's not reflected here in the minutes. So if we could have that amended, please, before we vote to adopt it, I'd appreciate it.
Well, Don?
That's exactly what happened.
So you would need to defer the minutes and we bring them back to the next public council meeting. They can't be amended, right, unless you want to pass a motion to amend them that way. The easier way would be to defer and bring them back.
Okay. Do you want to
So I would like to have it noted, please, and be quoted in the minutes for recognizing that item 4 on this committee of the whole piece that was brought forward tonight for adoption, that it was not reflected in these meeting minutes that there were still items outstanding for a quarry application that had a deadline as of May 18th. And this meeting
on now,
happened
just-
on June 8th.
All right, just,
Your worship, I believe I'm allowed to speak without interruption. Thank you.
yes, but you're
And I
asking to
would like
get,
to have it in the meeting minutes that that's what happened. And I would ask that we take it back and make those amendments because it needs to reflect what happened in the meeting and what was discussed at the meeting properly, please. I'd like for that to be included. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Just if CAO could just confirm, we had 2 planning meetings. The most recent one, an invite was sent out to all council, but nobody showed up other than myself and Councillor Thorne Goss. And then there was one before that where 2 members showed up. Can you confirm what meeting that's in question, please? Just for my own understanding.
It would be the second one that you referenced,
thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thanks.
All right, so we're going to defer those minutes.
Do I need
Can I
a
get a
motion for that, please, Mayor?
Can I get a motion to defer those minutes, please?
Then why don't we just do a motion? If we have to do a motion, why don't we do a motion to add it now and have it done? I can put forward a motion that we amend the minutes now.
I can, I guess the motion that would be council requests an update on a quarry application as there was outstanding items. And then the Planning Land Use Development Committee requested a invite, right?
No, let's be clear. That council requested an update on the quarry application.
All right, hang on. There's not even a motion on the floor. Are you putting forward a motion?
I would
All
like
right.
to move that we amend the committee of the whole meeting minutes for June 8th for point 4 under quarry application so that it reads, council requested an update on the quarry application, period. CAO advised that there were still outstanding items and an invitation to attend a Planning, Land Use and Development Committee meeting was requested.
Right.
And then
So
the rest of it can stay as it is.
Okay, so moved, right?
So
You got a
moved.
seconder for that? Seconder?
I got a comment to make.
We got a seconder
We
first.
need a seconder first.
I don't see a oh, okay, Tony seconded. Councilor Pollard. Discussion?
Yeah, just
Councilor Dorngas? Councilor Dorngas?
If we're going to update that, I also like to have it updated in there for the minutes that the COO advised that even though there were outstanding items that did not make it, I guess that night weren't discussed, but she did advise us that she had been talking to the solicitor and give the advice that the solicitor gave in particular with regards to any of those outstanding items. So if we're going to put in portion of what the CAO had indicated, then we need to put in everything that she indicated. So I don't know how to go back and look at the notes that CAO took for that particular meeting, because there's more to be updated than just what the deputy mayor is making reference to. There was a lot more discussion that took place.
Councilor Martin? Hang on for a second. Hang on just 1 second. CAO, what about what Councilor Dorngas just said?
The original agenda that was circulated for the committee of the whole meeting had 2 agenda items that was circulated to council. It was the COVID 2019 update, public council meetings. That's really all that should have been spoke to at the committee of the whole meeting. There was a last minute addition on the SAM annual general meeting. And just as we were about to adjourn, the quarry application came up. So I would recommend that if we want to include everything, I'll go back, but to do it in this form is not correct, it would be, I would have to defer and reference my my notes and then draft what was actually discussed. Really,
thank you.
those really numbers 3 and 4 should not have even been discussed, because as our rules of procedure, once the agenda is supposed to be limited to 1 to 2 items, and that's all that's supposed to be discussed at committee of the whole.
Okay. Councillor Pollard, or Councillor Martin, sorry.
I would, before CAO spoke, I was going to ask that before we go and vote, I don't really like the wording. I would like the CAO to take an opportunity, whether we now or at a later date, to pull her notes as well as the meeting invite to confirm what it was. The motion as presented sounds misleading. It sounds like there were items that conditions weren't met, and we wanted everyone there to review them. But when we met at the meeting, the director went down through everything that we're presenting tonight. So I would like CAO to backtrack and just confirm all details before we proceed to make sure it's correct. Thanks.
Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't see any benefit in doing, all due respect to Deputy Mayor and where she's going with it and what she wants to do with it. I think all the details are in that whole discussion around the quarry application, dates, when, if, whatever. They don't need to be put in this. This was a simple invite to come and discuss quarry application. If there's items that were submitted incorrectly or late, that is all in the documentation that should be available on that quarry vote. I don't see any need of change in those minutes. Simple request for people to join a PLUD meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Glant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You remember on multiple occasions when I tell everybody that we spend way too much time on the little inconsequential details, and when big items come, they tend to snap by. This is an exact, I feel is an exact example of that. But everyone going around talking about every little detail of every little thing. Guys, it's just the meeting minutes. Can we just try? You wonder why people think that, municipal councils can't get anything done. Can we just, if you want to, change the minutes, if not, we just move on and get this done. This is, anyway, it's just getting embarrassing, guys.
All right, so we have
big things. You want, that's it.
All right, so we have an amendment.
Last comment on the motion, please.
Yep.
The only reason I brought this motion forward was to ask to have the committee of the whole meeting minutes as presented reflected accurately, and it was missing that point. And there's an email as well that was circulated after the next day, because I requested it, looking for a detailed explanation of what was missing as of June 8th that evening. So I just want to be clear that I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm asking for transparency and accountability for the public, that the information that was discussed and the reason why we had that meeting requested be documented in the public package so that it's there for residents to be aware of. That's the only reason I'm asking this question, and that's the reason why I put the motion forward.
I hear you. So Deputy Mayor put forward, I guess, an amendment, right?
Yes.
That would be the amendment. So
yes,
let's vote on that. Let's vote on that amendment right now and do that. So all in favor of Deputy Mayor's amendment? Councillor Glenn and the Deputy Mayor. All opposed? Myself, Councillor Pollard, Councillor Martin, Councillor Torngas. So the amendment fails. Can we have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented, please?
So moved.
Councillor Martin moved. Councillor Pollard seconded.
I speak that minutes stand for the hour. I mean, we could analyze every minute that goes out and say that there's something missing or not missing. There's a general overview of what's there. Like I said, details of what's coming up will be in all the documentation that's coming forward.
All right. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I feel it's a critical piece of information that the public should be aware of. So I will vote not to accept this as presented. But I want to be clear that residents voted for me to be accountable and transparent, and that's exactly what this exercise is about right now.
Okay, the 350 odd pages in our council package with every document and email and everything to do with that quarry, I think is evidence that we're sharing everything with the with the public. Councillor Glenn? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Deputy Mayor opposed, everybody else in favor. Moving on. Moving on to the Planning Land Use Development Report. Councillor Martin, take it away.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I start talking, you can hear me, correct? No? Can you hear me?
Yes, so I can hear you, Councillor Martin.
Oh, okay, thank you, sorry. Okay, right now we have an item on here that is lengthy and is anticipated to take some time. So as we are working from home, it's not ideal. So I'd spoken to Director Shorts earlier today, and I do ask for patience to bear with me as we get down through it, which would be application DP 2016-02. There's quite a bit of information there. I will do my best to answer questions from the committee's perspective. Any technical questions, I am going to yield to Director Schwartz, as she is our staff professional on this matter. I will proceed now and start to review and present the information which committee has diligently worked on. And I will give, everyone can then have an opportunity to speak on the motion. I will yield my comments until everyone has spoken before it goes back to the mayor at any time. Before we start, I would, as there's so much information that myself and Councillor Thorne-Goss went down through with staff, I just wanted to give Councillor Thorne-Goss an opportunity for any information that she wants me to touch base on before I start. So, Councillor Thorne-Goss, if you have anything you want to talk about before I start, or we can wait until I'm done.
Hold on, guys. Point of order. Let's do this like we're supposed to do this, and get motions on the floor and seconders, and everyone get their piece and chair it properly.
Yeah,
Mayor Scott, would I be out of line in offering that dialogue to Councillor Thorne-Goss?
The chair's responsibility to bring forward a report, so just go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Thorne-Goss, after I'm done, you can, you're first up to talk to any information. So this was prepared on June 12th for Council. It was the Planning, Land Use and Development Committee meeting. I, as chair, was there, as well as Councillor Thorne-Goss as our committee member, Director Schwartz as our staff member, and Mayor Scott as ex officio. The application as presented is for 454A Bauline line, which is backland, application DP 2016-002, which is for a quarry. There are currently 3 in there, so this would essentially be number 4 if it passes. It's a rural land use zone. The background information and summary. The committee reviewed a detailed departmental background report on the proposal to develop property at 454A Bauline line backland in the area of Middle Tree Island Pond mineral working area for purposes of starting a quarry operation. A conditional approval in principle was issued on May 17, 2018, which was during this council term. This permit at the time was issued at council discretion following a discretionary use process involving public notification. The 2018 approval in principle is subject to 14 conditions that are to be met prior to a development permit being issued. The Planning and Development Department advised that all 14 conditions of the May 17, 2018 approval in principle have now been met. As per prior council meeting minutes on record, this application is now being tabled at this public council meeting. In accordance with the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025, the next step in the application process is the issuance of a conditional development permit. A detailed background report with this application forms part of this motion and is attached for reference. Committee recommendation: in accordance with the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025, the committee tabling the following motion regarding the proposal to develop property at 454A Bauline line, which is backland in the area of the Middle Three Island Pond mineral working area for the purposes of starting a quarry operation. And the motion as it stands is, whereas may it be resolved that as the necessary conditions set out in the approval in principle dated May 17, 2018 have been met, that a development permit be granted in respect of the quarry application for 54A Bauline line backland in the Middle Three Island Pond mineral working area, subject to the following conditions. Development subject to meeting conditions outlined in the approval in principle letter dated May 17, 2018 as attached. Development subject to engineering drawings labeled stormwater management, existing borrow pit, Middle Three Island Pond Road, Town of Torbay, NL, prepared by MAE Design Limited. Drawing C1 to C5, project number 2019114, revision 6, dated February 6, 2020, and associated approval letters as attached. In accordance with the Municipal Plan and Development Regulations 2015-2025, the Torbay Mineral Working Regulations, revision 5 attached, clear delimitation of tree buffer zones in the field by a surveyor licensed to practice in Newfoundland and Labrador is required. Inspection of said demarcation by the Town of Torbay staff is required prior to any mineral working commencing. This is to ensure that anyone working in the field aware of tree buffer zone boundaries prior to work commencing on the detention pond and feeder ditch storm infrastructure shall be clearly demarked in the field by a surveyor licensed to practice in Newfoundland and Labrador and inspected by Town of Torbay staff. Tree buffer zones shall be distributed by activity associated with the construction of the detention pond and feeder ditch. Submission to the Town of Torbay as built drawing signed by project engineer licensed to practice in Newfoundland and Labrador once detention pond and anti-siltation ditches are completed. It is the developer's responsibility to inspect storm infrastructure, clean out silt ditches and replace hay barriers as required. Inspection of storm infrastructure shall occur on a biannual basis and before and after significant storm events. Copies of inspection reports are to be submitted to the Town of Torbay. Trucking, cutting, and blasting shall occur in accordance with the provincial quarry permit number 14286 as issued by the Department of Natural Resources, Mineral Lands Division, and the Town of Torbay Mineral Working Regulations, revision 5, in accordance with the Migratory Birds Convention Act, as per the Minister's Environmental Assessment Release Letter of November 30th, 2018, Regulation number 1976, and Provincial Quarry Permit number 14286. No cutting or blasting shall occur between April 15th and August 15th of each year. Standard permitting conditions of the Town of Torbay. Annual fees and taxes in accordance with Torbay of scheduled rates and fees in the Town of Torbay. Submission of copies of provincial quarry and cutting permits on an annual basis. Site mitigation shall incur with conditions as per Department of Natural Resources, Mineral Lands Division, as well on a regular basis in accordance with Condition 17 of Torbay Mineral Working Regulations, revision number 5 in the rural land use zone, table condition 6J. The site shall be restored to not constitute a danger to the public and to not be unsightly. The submission of a phased mitigation landscape plan shall be required for review and approved by the town of Torbay prior to disclosure of the quarry. Co-signature of conditional development permit by proponent, copies of conditional development permit to be provided to Provincial Department of Municipal Affairs and Environment staff and Provincial Department of Natural Resources and the Mineral Lands Division. And that is my motion as presented. So moved.
Mover, seconder,
I believe Councillor Thorngass seconded, but she's muted.
Second.
seconder. Okay, we got a motion.
And Mayor, if I may,
Just before
go ahead.
we get started, I just want to remind everybody of our rules. We have a motion on the floor. Wait till you're recognized by the chair to speak, and we have a limit of 3 minutes on our to speak to this motion, as per our rules of procedure. CAO is going to advise me when we're at the 1 minute mark. So I don't want to. I'll put my hand up to let you know it's a minute. Hopefully you'll see me. If not, when your time comes to an end, I will unmute myself or I'll let you know. All right, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I will speak before on my position on this before I pass it to you. But as chair of the committee, I will say before council opens debate.
This is the debate right now that you're doing.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll be brief. And the committee worked diligently with Madam Schwartz, our director, and this is what these are our findings. So I'll pass it back to you, and then when everyone's done, I'll speak.
Councillor Thorngass, did you want to speak to this motion?
Okay. Well, it's obvious that what Councillor Martin said, there's a lot of work and time and effort after going into this file, so no decision was taken lightly. As already been stated, this conditional approval was issued to the applicant in May 2018 at the discretion of council. In 2017, it was appealed, and much work took place by the applicant to meet all the conditions, including condition 4, which was in response to the Eastern Regional Appeal Board for a submission of detailed site plan reflecting the buffer and slope restrictions. In addition, an environment assessment undertaking had taken place, which was requested by the Newfoundland government.
Mary, can you just stop for 1 second? Councillor Martin, do you mind muting yourself, please?
My apologies.
Thank you.
In addition, an environmental assessment undertaking by the provincial government was viewed by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Environment and by Water Resources Management Plan and Water Resources Division. Set of drawings looking at the 14 conditions were approved by the Town of Torbay engineer, the applicant's engineer, Department of Natural Resources, Mineral Lands Division, and the Department of Municipal Affairs and Environment, Environmental Assessment Division, Water Resources, plus the direction of our Director of Planning and Development. And we've had, leading up to any decisions on this, we've put much, I guess, confidence in our town solicitor to arrive at where we were too. I appreciate the fact that we're saying that there's been some delays in some correspondence being received, but I guess in light and looking at that question had been asked to our solicitor and recognizing that in the midst of living with COVID, the applicant was working on meeting many deadlines, and through no fault of his own, the government departments were late in issuing some required documentation. I know that there's been a group of concerned citizens regarding the potential negative impact of the quarry, but there already exists 2 pits in the area. And I guess as long as I can remember,
About 30
there's,
seconds, Mary. Sorry.
upon the advice of our staff and various government engineers and our solicitors, I will be voting in favor of this motion. The process had a great amount of stress for the applicant and his family. So I just want to look at the big picture here and how we arrived at the decision that we're at today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Deputy Mayor?
All right, thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to start my clock here, so I got myself sorted. You know, this was an application right from get-go that the residents came out and said, we don't want it in our backyard. And council decided not to listen to the residents, and that was council's prerogative, the past term of council. When they appealed this, the decision was made that council didn't have enough information, and the amendment that was done in 2018 required, as Councillor Thorngass said, a site plan, buffer zones, all this, the information that that the residents weren't able to receive. If there's anything where you can find a win in this exercise, it has been that this raises the bar of development in Torbay. Because when this was approved, it was approved on just a drawing on a map of here's what we think we're going to quarry. Now we have engineered detailed drawings. We have all the provincial regulations in place, all the information that was originally needed and should have been in place for this application to ever be considered. So if there's a win, the win is that we've now raised the bar of what's expected for development in Torbay go forward. And well done this term of council for holding fast and making sure we did that. Because even when this came for approval last July, June or July, this was submitted again. So, you know, we got most of this in place, but we actually didn't. And it was, oh, we'll get it, but we didn't have it. And the applicant had 2 years from the 2018 adjustment because of the appeal judgment to now. There's been 2 years. So COVID hasn't been in play for 2 years. And it wasn't until Director Schwartz said, hey, where are we on this, that we actually started moving this forward. And the point being, had the only things been that were left being provincial things that we needed to look at as for COVID, as Councillor Thorngass said, being outstanding, then that would have been the issue. But if you look at the June 3rd revision, it was required. It came in after May 18th, even after we extended to the following Tuesday. There was still a requirement for engineering work of the applicant, which was reviewed by our engineers after that. So it wasn't just the approvals that were needed. It was actually engineering work. There's a responsibility of the town to say you didn't meet the deadline. So guess what? You have to go back and make another application. And that's the reason why I'm going to vote no tonight, because substantial completion was not meeting all the criteria within the time frame. And, you know, we need to listen to our residents. We're not listening to them now tonight before the vote again, which is unfortunate. We didn't listen to them then. And I feel it's very important that we need to listen to residents and their concern for every single application that we have come forward. So in the 15 seconds that I have left, we've raised the bar. I totally think this is not beneficial for the town. The $1,000 we're going to get out of a year is no benefit to the residents, and there's environmental impacts and economic impacts that are not good for Torbay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? No, I'm not seeing none. Tony Pollard, Councillor Pollard, sorry.
All right, Mayor Scott, I realize I'm fighting a game of chicken and egg with Councillor Glenn, because I know he's champing at the bit to say something, but he wants everybody else to say something first so he can be last. I know exactly how that works, so I should have maybe been quiet about it. So I just lost 15 seconds of my time to do that. So chuckle. I got to say I'm torn. I have a message in my inbox that I had to respond to a resident. JM, sorry if you're there and listening, I haven't responded to you yet because I had it ready to send with a decision one way, and now I'm on the fence another way, and I'm really on the fence on this overall. Number one is that it was appealed, and the appeal overturned, the approval in principle based on the fact that council did not and could not make the decision at the time because they didn't have all the information necessary. That decision was not clear, and that was overruled by the courts, and then they asked that we vary a position to the approval in principle. And I looked at it and said, yeah, okay, they varied it, but it's sort of, in the first place, we didn't really understand it. And they also said that that the council didn't really understand it at the time either. I think we're in a precarious spot, and I want to say kudos to the staff and the committee. I would not want to have been on the committee during this period of time and this ungodful discussion and the controversy around this particular file and the goings on. So thank you very much for all the time and effort you put in there. I still looking at it, and while I think there's probably merit to approve the quarry on a go-forward basis, in my mind, I'm still sitting back and thinking, okay, what is really the intent of the town of Torbay, and where we go 2 years hence? We're a growing community. I don't think quarries exist inside town boundaries necessarily. I think they're made for more rural areas. Now I know this is zone rural and permits that to be there. I think there are some clouded issues that had we been set back to period number 1 and re-looked at it all again, would we make that same decision today? So that's where my head is going to go at the end of this, and I really haven't decided one way or the other at this point in time. But there you go.
Councillor Glenn.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get right to it. The quarry falls under discretionary use. Torbay Development Regulation states under Section 90 that the quarry can be permitted if the council is satisfied that the development would not be contrary to the general intent and purpose of the municipal plan or any further scheme or plan or regulation pursuant thereto, and to the public interest. When council last approved the approval in principle, the decision was appealed by our citizens and it was overturned by the appeal board. The board noted specifically that Section 3.29 of the municipal Torbay municipal plan says extensive areas of land having slopes in excess of 50% are designated conservation. Development is not considered feasible on such slopes because of excess runoff, erosion, high costs, the service maintenance, risk to public safety, etc. The board found that without a site plan to show the exact location of the proposed quarry on a map which showed the zones and slopes of the land, council did not have a complete understanding of the application, and that council could not determine whether the proposed quarry site would be contrary to the municipal plan or not, as required in Section 90, just a reference. Based on its finding, the board determined that the town of Torbay did not fully understand the request, and the approval in principle was to be reversed. After we received the appeal board decision, we allowed the applicant to gather this information submitted to the town. However, I want to note we still did not at that time have those exact plans we required to fulfill our discretionary powers outlined in Regulation 90, the same docs noted in the appeal board's decision. Now that we have received the info for the first time publicly here like this to debate, we can clearly see that areas that exceed 50% are a large proportion of the development. And given the latest required information that was missing from all the previous discussions of council and whose absence formed the basis for which the appeal board ruled we could not meet Section 90, we can now clearly see there is enough visual evidence to determine the discretionary application is indeed contrary to the clause of the municipal plan, Section 3.2.9. Again, the specific section noted by the appeal board. Given this, info confirms the application is contrary to both the intent and letter of our municipal plan, again, Section 3.29. And given that we gave the applicant every opportunity to demonstrate documented adherence to the plan, I cannot support the motion. And I'm just going to show you if you can see this. This is actually the plan. If you can see that or not. The areas in red are a slope that I believe this makes this contrary to the municipal plan. So the areas in red are this, again, the areas that were not supposed to be developed on. And it just makes the once I saw that map, once we gathered information, half of me was actually hoping that the applicant would come back and show that there was adherence in this plan and the go ahead and all that kind of stuff. But I can't unsee that map now that we have the information that we didn't have before during the original approval in principle, during the original appeal, during the original overturn. So I can't support this motion. If anyone asks why I can't support the motion, I'm gonna simply point them to I'm gonna show them Section 90 of our regs. I'm going to show them Section 3.29 of the municipal plan, show them the appeal board decision, and show them the map.
Time.
Thank you.
Time, buddy. Sorry. Thank you. I guess back to me.
Or me.
No, me. Daniel.
Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Or should we gonna pass the chair?
Go ahead, sorry, my apologies.
Pardon?
Mayor,
gonna
you
pass the
should
chair-
turn the
chair
chair
off?
over.
Well,
Turn
I'm
the
not in conflict.
chair over to Councillor Gallant so you can speak, please.
Oh, yes, okay. Sure.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, please go ahead.
All right.
Actually, just a quick note, should be me or should be deputy, deputy's not in conflict.
No, I'm not in conflict. I should be the
Okay.
one who has the chair.
Hand it to the deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Sorry about that, Deputy Mayor. I just gone
Okay.
with the previous, at the start of the meeting.
All right. So
Thank you.
basically, what this is, the town of Torbay made a commitment and approved in principle this application. It's already approved in principle, provided the applicant meets their conditions. And all the information that we've been given from our staff, from our engineers, from the government, all the review that's been done on this, are they telling us and our legal that the conditions were met. So basically what we're going to do here, it sounds like, is revoke basically an approval that was already approved based on the conditions. So I'm not prepared to question or throw our staff under the bus to say that what they're telling us is not correct. So I don't really have much more to say on it. What I will say is that this particular application has been contentious, yes, and there was a lot of good things came out of it, as Deputy Mayor mentioned. But the minimum working conditions that we have now in place to protect against a lot of these issues that were a problem are really good, and the government adopted them. The other part about that is, I'm really troubled that we're in the position where we're going to go back on the town's word, which is a real problem for me. But with that said, this is probably the most scrutinized and reviewed and studied and engineered and whatever else people touched it application ever in the history of this town, I would imagine. So with that,
You have 1 minute, Mayor.
I have full confidence.
1 minute.
I have full confidence in our staff that they did a great job on this. Julia, thank you very much. And our engineers. And, I don't think it's fair to say that our staff didn't do their job the last time when this originally was approved. Yeah, the appeal board made a decision and we adhered to that. But I think that our staff worked hard on this right from the start. And, I would never question them. And I trust their integrity. And if they tell me that these conditions are met, I believe them. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to stop my clock here. Okay, I'll hand the chair
I'm going
back
to
to
take my
you.
chair back now.
Yes, just hand it back to you.
All right, thanks. Councillor Martin, you can close the debate, buddy.
Thank you. I have a lot to say, but I have so little time, but I didn't prepare anything. I wanted to speak how I felt. And, this is my first term at council, and I really feel that a mess has been inherited from the history of this. I feel split. I feel empathetic for the applicant, and I feel empathetic for the residents. We have residents in there that, need to have a good quality of life and have kids and whatnot, and there's traffic. I don't disregard any comments that any residents made, and I don't disregard any comments that the members voting against are. I feel that the applicant also deserves empathy. This has been going on for years and years and years, way before my time. And I feel he has contributed much time and effort and funds to the best of his ability to try and work with us. I feel that 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was that this started to evolve, that council at that time, not to pass fingers, but that council at that time should have asked themselves when the original application came in, what benefit does a quarry have in a residential town? That should have been a question asked then. And I feel strongly that as committee chair, it's been an extra strain to have to do due diligence to be fair and respond to the application that was accepted in the past and has been passed down for so long. We have serious terms and conditions in there. I don't doubt staff's confidence, and they've done their work, and we have serious conditions in there. And I anticipate that staff will be very observant of the applicant should this pass. Although it's a very difficult position, given the legal advice on what litigation this could open us up to from the history of what the town's committed to the applicant. While I strongly feel that there's no winning stance for the applicant or the residents, I feel that the town had opened a past dialogue and had made a commitment when they took this application to work with the applicant. And I as much as I don't like to say it, I feel that we've, given the history, it's put us in this position, and it is what it is. We got to deal with it. The residents, residents group in there, don't feel for 1 minute that your concerns are felt on deaf ears, because they certainly haven't with me. And I welcome any comments. Feel free to send your comments in the last Q&A, and feel free to write committee afterwards. And I say that I'm at a time, so thank you. I will unfortunately be voting for this application.
All right. Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? Myself, Councillor Thorngoss, Councillor Martin. Opposed? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Pollard, Councillor Glent. So this motion fails. Moving on, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. So that motion is now null and void, correct? I'll just continue on with my report. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Moving on, application number 2 for 438 Bauline Line, application number BR 2020-004, home office use, online sale of recreational vehicles, discretionary use, which is a residential infill rural land use zone. Background information and summary. The town of Torbay is in receipt of an application proposing to establish a home office use associated with business buying and selling recreational vehicles such as snowmobiles, ATVs, UTVs, etc. 438 Bauline Line. There's no associated storage of recreational vehicles on the property. Proposed home office is listed as a discretionary use and is subject to condition 10 of the residential infill land use zone and regulations 33 and 90 of the Torbay development regulations, requiring public notification. A detailed background report associated with this application forms part of this motion and is attached for reference. Committee recommendation. The committee reviewed the information presented, concurs with the department, and recommends that in accordance with regulations 33 and 90, a conditional approval be issued for the proposed home office use in connection with the sale of recreational vehicles, subject to the conditions outlined in association departmental background report, and therefore recommends tabling the following motion. And the motion as presented is motion to approve application C 2020-004 in accordance with regulations 10 of the residential infill land use zone table, as well as regulation 33 and 90 of the Torbay development regulations 2015 to 2025, and to issue a conditional approval as per conditions outlined in attached departmental background report. That's my motion as presented. So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Your worship,
Yeah.
just to clarify, there's no increased traffic. There's small children in the community. There's no vehicles on the facility. It's just a home-based office, correct?
Yes.
I just want to make sure we're clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Councillor Martin,
Yes.
I think that all the background information is there. Everybody can see it. I think you should just go ahead and read your motions, unless there's something really critical in that background information that you need. Okay.
Thank you. I'm dried out. I'll accept your recommendation. Okay. The next one is, we're Partners for Climate Change Protection, Climate Change Mitigation, FCM Fundamental Inc., which is the T2050 Keystone Project. Background information is there as presented. I'll now proceed to the motion. Motion for council is to choose as its T2050 Keystone Project the installation of solar panels at Town Hall, as this will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 0.35 TC02, and I apologize, I don't know what that's short for, annually, constituting a $1,800 savings annually, thereby also improving resiliency for Town Hall as emergency response command center, reducing reliance on the electrical grid, and as a high-profile location providing opportunity for public education. In addition, the committee supports staff furthermore exploring if a small portion of said funding may go towards funding an engineering student complementing the existing work already done on watershed modeling in Torbay, as well as to further explore how decentralized engineered wetland systems in the treatment of municipal wastewater may be considered in Torbay. And that is my motion as presented. So moved.
Second.
Mover to the seconder. Any questions or comments? That's 0.35 tons of CO2, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. The TCO2 is, okay, that's short for CO2. Okay, thank you.
I don't really have much of a comment, but what I will say is that I think this is pretty exciting that we're going to put solar power at the town hall and try and do our part with climate change. So I think it's awesome. With that, I'll call a question. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you. The next one is Town of Paradise referral for St. John's Urban Region Regional Plan Amendment number 7, 2019, letter of referral of May 8, 2020. Background and committee background is there. And I'll go ahead and present my motion. And the motion is, I apologize if you can hear my dog in the background. He's currently greeting someone. My motion to confirm that the town of Torbay has received a referral from the town of Paradise dated May 8, 2020, and confirms that the town of Torbay has no objection to the proposed regional plan amendment number 7, 2019, as the area proposed to be redesignated is fully located within the jurisdiction of the town of Paradise and bears no policy implications for the town of Torbay, and that is my motion as presented. So moved.
Seconder. Mover, seconder. Comments, questions? No, it's pretty straightforward. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
And the next one's approval of reports and permit listings. The motion as presented is to approve permit listings as attached to this agenda. So moved.
Seconder.
Microphone.
Councillor Torgas, second.
Microphone's off.
Okay, I can see her hand.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Oh, question.
No, she's just using the wrong hand.
Oh,
All in
sorry.
favor?
I got a
All right.
comment.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead, Councillor
Um,
Goss, sorry.
we're really putting the cart before the horse here. This motion to approve permit listings is attached. We need to
Right.
go over the attached before we make a motion to approve them. There's
Yeah, okay.
several listings there, so we need to go down. That motion needs to be done after we go down through these.
All right, you're talking about the approvals in principle, May 8th to June 11th?
Yes,
Okay,
we need to go down
Um,
beforehand.
but those
If
are
I may
already
ask
approved.
for-
We don't need to, excuse me, hang on. CAO,
Sorry,
there
go
doesn't
ahead.
need to be a motion for that, right?
Correct. These are permits that were issued over the
Counter.
counter because they meet the regulations. This is just a summary documentation for council and for residents to make them
Okay.
aware of the level of development that's happening in the town and the dollar value associated with it. So if there was a motion of council required for an individual application, it would be separated out from this report.
Right, so that motion is not required.
No, it could be you could amend it to say accept, or it's for information.
Okay. Councillor Goss?
No, I just want to make sure because anybody reading that, it's the motion is in there before the listings.
Yeah,
Even if that was going to come after the listing or if it's for information purposes, maybe that's twice. But anyway, right now it's not worded properly.
okay.
CAO
can,
has a hand up.
Oh, Councillor, CAO?
We've changed the process with how the reports are presented under planning, land use, and also with administration, finance, in particular with planning and land use development. As you recall, the reports are quite lengthy and to be scrolling through page by page. So we put the motion report first, which would be the decisions for council's consideration, and all the supporting documentation is behind it. That's where you see the separate tabs. So it's a bit of a different process, but it achieves the same goal and provides more information to the residents and to council.
Okay, so we could probably amend that last motion to accept the approved permit listing report as presented. Does somebody want to amend that? You're already approved, right? So Councillor Goss is going to make that amendment to that motion.
I'll second it if needed.
Okay.
Did you get that, Ann?
Could you clarify that
Yeah,
for me,
thanks.
Mayor? I'm kind of confused. I just want to make sure I'm clear before I vote.
Okay, I can clarify it. These
Thanks.
are the applications that were approved by staff over the counter. They don't need a vote of council.
Right, so why do we have a
uh,
motion?
She's presenting a report to council. So there's a motion there, and we're just going to amend it so that it reflects that this is just for report.
But
We
I'm
don't
lost
really
on,
need it. I
yeah,
guess we can withdraw it.
I think that's the point I'm trying to make. I don't understand why we're making a motion if we don't need a motion. If it's there for information purposes only, so the public can be aware of it, then I don't understand why we have to motion it or amend a motion.
Okay, good point. CEO, can we just do that?
Council's decision, Mayor, which way
Okay.
council so chooses to proceed.
So we can withdraw that. Well, we can withdraw that motion because Councillor Martin made the motion. Would you withdraw that motion?
Yes, I hereby withdraw the motion.
Okay, is everybody in agreement?
I second that.
Okay, everybody in agreement?
Yes.
All right, everybody's in agreement. Thank you. All right, so we move on.
Come on now. Come in, buddy.
There's Councillor Martin, you got some other reports that are there for information purposes only?
Yes, thank you. They're just for information. They're there as presented.
Okay.
If there's any questions or anything, anyone can feel free to acknowledge your questions. Other than that, thank you everyone for for your patience during the lengthy report, and back to the mayor.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? Seeing no questions, then we'll move on to Min and Finance, Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Worship, and forgive me if I get a little bit befuddled here. I'm still kind of thinking about that previous motion too. I got to tell you, and kind of puts a damper over the whole thing, really, in some respects. But here we are. We move ahead. We met on the 15th of June. There was myself, can't remember if Deputy Mayor was there or not. It's not listed there. Who was there? Okay, sorry. Mayor Scott and Deputy Mayor CAO and Jacqueline as a director. We'll go backwards, please, Don, or wherever the information is. Thanks. So payroll for the period April 30th to May 14th for 29 employees totaled $77,010.49. And from the 15th of May to the 28th of May for 29 employees totaled $78,972.16. There were 138 invoices recorded during that period for a total of $268,498.16. And there are a number of motions here that are associated with those and a few other things. The first one is that the town adopt the consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019 as presented. And a seconder.
Second.
Sorry,
Okay.
I have a little interruption from my 8-year-old son who's doing a really good job of trying to hold on. I'll be right with you. Just a minute. I'm sorry.
All right, so we have a motion and a seconder. Anybody have any questions, or actually, to you, Councillor Pollard, you got anything to say?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this is a new format, so bear with us as we move forward. Sorry, CEO.
It's all I was asking. What did Deputy Mayor leave the meeting? If so, it needs to be reflected in the minutes.
I think she just muted herself. I don't know what she's doing.
I don't want to spend a lot of time. Sorry.
Keep going to Councillor Pollard. It just should be reflected in the minutes, Mayor, if she stepped away. Just like Councillor Glant did earlier in the meeting. Okay. Right?
Bye. I'm back now. Sorry.
All right.
We just had a
Goodbye.
Okay, Jake, you need to put it in a butt. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Sorry, guys. And do you have that reflected? Were you able to get that? I'm sorry.
I do have it reflected in minutes.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm really sorry, guys.
Councillor Martin,
Councillor Pollard
as well, please. Sorry. Okay, so I last time I said I wanted some time to actually go down through the financial statements, and given the length of this meeting already, I'm going to try to just cut through a short review. CAO, I don't know if you can flip through the pages or not as we go through, just for a few highlights. If not, it's all right. Just want to refer to the page 2, I guess, and I think it's important that everyone realizes all the time that the statements are ours. The auditors come in and they check for materiality, which is a certain dollar value that they look at every transaction. They don't look at each and every individual transaction. They look at controls we have around our finances and our reporting system, and they render an opinion. But it is the management who has the ultimate responsibility for the information that's presented here. So they did present a clean audit report, which is great. I won't speak to the balance sheet. And like I say, if anybody has any questions on these in particular, feel free to contact me on my email. I'm certainly will get back to them. I always run to the statement of cash flows, which is on page 8. I think that is probably the best snapshot of activity and information. The thing about financial statements are, this is December 31st, 2019. We're now at the middle of June. So we're talking history here, and we can't do anything to change what already exists. We can only provide information so we can learn and move forward. And I'm more concerned with what's going to happen in the remainder of this year and 2020, 21. So anyway, we had a surplus of $160,000. And I think that if you go down through it here, the change in cash, we had a decrease in cash of $1.67 million. That's close to the end of that page there. So as you can see, our cash position has, I say, deteriorated a little bit over the past year. reflective of course, that we did purchase some $5.7 million of tangible capital assets in that as well. So I just highlight those, and this essentially page tells where the money goes, but I just want to highlight that we did eat into a fair bit of cash, and I guess we just have to keep an eye on that moving forward. We're still in great shape. We still have $3.3 million, available to us, and plus whatever receipts we're going to pull in for this year. We go to page 12. I think an area that causes some concern and needed further focus on moving forward. I think we all acknowledge that, is the fact that our receivables outstanding at the end of it all are somewhere in the area in the $2 million range, and with an allowance for doubtful accounts. So we have a lot of bad accounts that are sitting there that we don't think we're going to be able to collect, and we know we are focusing on some of those now as we move forward. It is on an increase over the previous year, which means our collection efforts need to be stepped up. And with the delay in our tax payment deadline, it may potentially worsen throughout the year, but we shall see that. But all I'm saying is that that's an area where we're going to have to focus on moving forward. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot more to say. The individual schedules behind essentially show the breakdown of capital assets where we purchased in various, like land improvements, building and leasehold. Gives a breakdown of those 5.2 million. I have a breakdown of those if anyone wants those, and I'm sorry for speeding up, but I was trying to get through this slide because, like I said, we can't change the figures. The budget compared to actuals are there. So once again, if there are any questions for variances, I do have answers for those as well. And then the other schedules are just really accounting information from a program by program, like recreation and cultural services, regional planning and development in terms of revenues taken in and expenses. So they're laid out there as individual mini income statements, shall we say, moving forward. And the last page is a reconciliation of the financial plan to the PSAS way of doing things. Essentially the difference between cash accounting and the accounting that we have to report in our financial statements from a professional perspective. So if anybody has any questions, as committee, we don't see any potential hold for accepting these financial statements. So I'll end my discussion. If anybody has any comment or whatever, or we can just move right to the vote.
Anybody have any questions, comments? No? Okay. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Carried.
Okay. We motion that the town of Torbay accept cost shared funding as outlined in the Municipal Affairs and Environment Project Approved Letter dated May 26, 2020 to complete new sidewalks on Torbay Road from Mans Lane to Juniper Ridge for $2,300,000. The town of Torbay agrees to provide $695,170 in funding for this project and authorizes the mayor and chief administrative officer to enter into a funding agreement with the Department of Municipal Affairs and Environment on behalf of the town of Torbay. So moved.
Over. Seconder. Deputy Mayor, seconded.
I say is great. We finally are moving ahead with the sidewalk plan that we did, and I'm even more happy that we get cost shared funding on it rather than have to use our tax dollars directly without some leverage from the government. And we're using $695,000 to get 2.3 million as opposed to 4 million of our own dollars. So just say that. Please.
Yeah, it's great. Great work. Great work.
Deputy Mayor.
Just to that point, this has been something that residents have been asking for quite vocally since I've been involved in council. And I know that, we've worked really hard to make this happen over the last few years. And I'm just really excited to be a part of a council that's able to do this, get the funding in place, leverage our tax dollars for provincial and federal monies to get that for our residents. And I'm really excited to see those sidewalks go in. My understanding is this year we can approve this now, then it gives the ability to get out and get the quotes and the RFP process in place, and we can get this done this summer. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I just can't wait to see those sidewalks in place for the safety of our residents.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, I would I'd agree. It's been a while. I'm happy to see it. So if we can amend that motion to put the sidewalks on Bauline line. No, I'm just kidding. All right, all in favor? All in favor?
Yeah, aye.
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 Unanimous.
We have invoices here for routine payments in the greater than $5,000. Receiver general payroll deductions April 16th to the 30th in the amount of $49,636. Payroll deductions for May 1st to the 15th in the amount of $24,747.52. Trio benefits for the May 20 group benefits in the amount of $12,028.06. CIBC Mellon, the April 2020 pension contributions in the amount of $29,283.60. Two Newfoundland power bills for the April 20th group billing in the amount of $18,310.77, and street lighting and gateway sign for $19,813.36, and T2 Ventures for the April 20th garbage and recycling in the amount of $42,771.95, all for a total of $178,280.49. So moved.
Over. Deputy Mayor seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous.
No one wants to ask a question now anyways. That's good. That's straightforward. They're the routine payments anyway. It's just not,
My screen shifted and the people were in different spots.
Okay. The next one is for another grouping of $5,000. The non-routine, I say, although some are routine, really like commissionaires, but they're a little different than the mandatory. So we say up above. Commissionaires for municipal enforcement for April 5th to the 18th in the amount of $5,152. For enforcement, April 19th to May 2nd in the amount of $5,152, and for May 3rd to the 16th in the same amount of $5,152. Harvey & Company for 2009 JCB loader repairs in the amount of $6,705.27. GFL Environmental for the spring cleanup dumpsters in the amount of $17,526.33, and Peck Engineering for the upper three-corner pound ball field lighting design bill in the amount of $12,073.56, all for a total of $51,761.16. So moved.
Over. Deputy Mayor second. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
The Town of Torbay award tender 2020-430, supply and delivery of one latest model pickup truck to Hickman Motors for the price of $41,904 plus HST. So moved.
Mover. Deputy Mayor seconded. Questions? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
The Town of Torbay accepted quote 20-109 from Glenn Barnes Architecture for the Torbay Common Acoustics panel design for the price of $5,900 plus HST. So moved.
Move. Deputy Mayor second. Questions? Deputy Mayor.
Can I just the acoustics panel that we're looking for, is that partially funded by COA? I believe it is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
I just wanted to make sure the public understood that when they're looking at at that expenditure, that's part of the resources that was there from COA with the capital campaign. So just want to make sure.
Realize that's just the design. That's not the actual panels themselves yet.
No, yeah, but I just wanted to make sure they understood that. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And the Town of Torbay sole source the purchase of 6 basketball net extenders.
Oh, hang on, we got to vote on that one first, Tony. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Aye.
The Town of Torbay sole source the purchase of 6 basketball net extenders for Torbay Common from Centaur Products Inc. for $11,230 plus HST. So moved. Sorry.
Seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody, unanimous? Unanimous.
Okay, the next one is, I guess, the Canadian Emergency Business Account Fund that allows businesses who have significant reduction in revenues to apply for a $40,000 grant, of which $30,000 is repayable at some point in time. So essentially, you end up with, I guess, $10,000 of free money. So there's a motion here for the Jack Byrne Arena to actually apply for that. And you know, given the fact that COVID is going to have a severe impact on Jack Byrne Arena for this operating year, and it's something that we're trying to jump on board with and get our head around in terms of what it looks like from a loss of revenue perspective moving forward. So this is money that will help us in that, and then we pay it back. So we do get the benefit of having $10,000 that we don't have to pay back somewhere down the road. So the motion reads that the town of Torbay support the Jack Byrne Regional Sports and Entertainment Center's application to the Canadian Emergency Business Account in the amount of $40,000. If approved, this application will offset revenues lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The town of Torbay has approval to submit the application subject to the following two conditions: receipt of written confirmation by 3 additional facility owners, namely the towns of Logie Middle Cove, Outer Cove, Pooch Cove, and Flat Rock, confirming their support and approval of the application submission, and that the board will repay the loan before December 31st, 2022. So moved.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Comments? Deputy Mayor, second it.
I'd like to speak to this motion if I could. We had our AGM within the last couple of months, and we've got a new board in place now. And myself and Councillor Pollard both serve on that board as the chair and the new treasurer. And you know, it's a very real reality that the Jack Byrne facility is unable to function the way that it normally would, just because of the COVID parameters of not being able to bring people together in a space, especially indoors. We have no idea, as everybody, you know, as the levels progress, when a second wave will come and what that'll look like. And we already do know when the very first meeting that we had after the AGM, we asked that we sit down with the budget projections and then the adjusted budget projections, so we could have a look at what potential loss we've already incurred and what does that look like till the end of the year. And then we've also had a conversation about increasing, and we actually put a motion forward to increase our meetings to monthly meetings so we could better keep an eye on what's happening here with the financials in the regions. And it's not lost on us what the risk is to the town for any debt or loss when it comes to that facility. So the whole point of this is to be able to apply the $10,000 is there to the good, but there's also $30,000 that's cash flow that's available till December 31st, 2022. And when we put this motion to the floor in the Jack Byrne meeting, I was very clear that the motion had to state that it would be repaid in full by that deadline, so that there was no risk to the towns to take any loss on this. So that is motioned. I just wanted to be sure that council is aware that is motioned in the last meeting that we had where this came forward, that the Jack Byrne Management Board will have this paid back in full by that deadline. So like Councillor Pollard said, it's $10,000 that can help offset some of the loss. We are working very carefully with staff to try to make sure that we are mitigating any potential loss there. It's not certainly due to the work of the board or the staff at the location. They can't, I mean, right now they're working to get as many people in, but we don't know exactly what those capacities will be. So we are working on that, but I just wanted to speak to it so members of council understood. And I do understand, I've heard as well, I believe that the other municipalities have accepted and approved this as well, because we do have that condition there to have it in writing from the other municipalities, but it's a regional facility, so we need a regional decision. So those are, and if you have any other questions, I can answer them. I'm happy to do so.
Thank you. I don't think, do anybody have any other questions? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
And I think that ends my report, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Good job.
Could I just ask one question before we move on?
Sure.
The pickup truck that's being replaced, just want to make sure that we're doing the same thing we recently did with the planning truck, where we didn't paint it. Yeah, we're just keeping the white and putting the stickers on to save money. That's what I'm asking.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Economic Development and Tourism, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was found to be in conflict for the motion. Do you want me to present the report and then hand it over to Councillor Martin and step out of the meeting? How would you like for me to proceed? I can hand it over right now to Councillor Martin. I can step back. It's up to you.
It's not until you go to present that motion for that particular motion that you would be in conflict. So you're fine to deliver your report. When the motion comes up, then Councillor Martin will motion it and somebody else can second it.
Okay, I'll step out when that comes. Okay. Yeah. All right. So thank you, Your Worship, for the clarification on that. Our Economic Development and Tourism Committee met on June 11th from 6:30 to 7:30 via Zoom. Myself, Councillor Martin, and our staff, Economic and Tourism Development Officer, Deanne Lawrence, were in attendance. We changed the time, so I apologize, to 5:35. So the items that we discussed, we talked under economic development.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Wasn't I there too?
Yes, you were.
You were.
Yeah, okay. We just had to make that
so we
note.
need to
make a
amend
note there.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
if make sure we do it. Sorry, Your Worship, I apologize.
This was my committee week.
So under economic development, we talked about an RFP, and what this is about. We have a number of documents that we've had that are outdated around economic development, looking at, what are we going to do? How are we going to make the best decisions as a council that could support economic development in the community? There have been discussions in the past about an industrial park. There's been discussions about, business park and what could be done around the town center. And we've got an economic development plan. So there's a number of different things that we have, and now we have a new economic development officer, but all of these pieces are all put together. And it's time now to do an environmental scan, looking at, what capacities do we have here? We've got all kinds of brand new data that's available to us. And we really need to focus on what role can the town play? What opportunities do we have to support economic development in the town of Torbay? So the purpose of this RFP is to bring in a consultant who can actually look at all that stuff, put it together, work with the town, and develop a plan that we can follow, and that we would have clear direction as to where we want to be going with economic development in the future. So that was the discussion in a nutshell. And the motion, I will read that. Okay, so we move that the town of Torbay issue the RFP for the Torbay Economic Strategic Roadmap to hire a professional consultant or consulting firm that will conduct a comprehensive analysis of Torbay's commercial and industrial development potential. All of the information around that is in here, the different pieces of it. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'd like to move that we issue that RFP.
Mover.
Second.
Seconder.
Second.
Okay, Councillor Martin, second. Any questions? Councillor Stormglass? Unmute yourself, please.
Or microphone.
What's the associated cost with that RFP?
That will be dependent on the proposals that are provided back to council. There is a defined scope of work for the RFP. Committee has reviewed it and had a look at it. But at the end of the day, when it goes to market and they come back with the work plan and what they can do, then we'll evaluate that at that time. We have given some thought to what potential costs may be for that, but we won't have an answer until we actually receive the proposals from the consultants.
Well, how much money is the budget for it?
Don, can you speak to what money is in the budget around that, what we have allocated?
Just pulling the expense report there now. Just bear with me for a second.
Thank you. it's not a capless amount of money that we're thinking, Councillor Thorngoss, but at the concern I have about speaking publicly about what potential budget we may have would be that it would give an unfair advantage to a firm to provide a quote, or to, if a firm were to see the minutes and another firm didn't. I want to make sure that we don't do anything that would be that would give unfair advantage to anybody in the procurement process.
So
there's-
to this part,
twen-
just a second. So I think what Mary's getting at, for this piece here, there's minimal cost because our staff did the RFP, right?
The scope of the RFP was written. They wrote out what it is, but the
Yeah.
actual work, the scope of work that will be done by the consultant is what the cost will be, the work that they will do
Right.
before, once it's evaluated and awarded. But
And
before,
once those costs come in, then council will vote on whether to accept it or not.
yes, correct. Yeah, the proposal will be evaluated, and then that will be brought back to council for a decision if we were to move forward, and we would discuss price amongst ourselves with that. But we would definitely have that discussion with council before we move forward with any of this or approved it. Right now, it's just to issue an RFP to get proposals from consultants to see about moving this forward.
I understand where you're coming from with an unfair advantage. I understand that, but I guess just one question: was this a budgeted item?
Don's going to speak to what we have there for the budget.
So the budget, there is a budget line entitled Commercial and Industrial Development for this study, and a budgeted is $20,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay. So moving on down here.
The next one is you'll have to excuse yourself.
Okay, the next motion, I'll hand it over to Councillor Martin, and if you guys can let me know when it's time to come back.
Yep.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The next one is a motion as presented, is that I move that the town of Torbay support local entrepreneurship by waiving all applications and related fees associated with participants of the Youth Ventures program starting their own business during the period of June 1st, 2020 to September 1st, 2020. So moved.
Mover, seconded by Councillor Pollard.
Thank you. I'd just like to say it's a good initiative, I think, for young entrepreneurship, and I'll support it. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so just to resume the report, there's some information there about tourism and Tourism Week, the contest that we had, and the video of the virtual Torbay Walk. But I think the thing that I really would like to address in the report is the culture and heritage part of it. We've had some. Maybe I'll back up a little. The heritage, the History House work, I guess, is the crux of this conversation for the majority of it. And we have a project management company in place. Public Works are working on a design of, what the building is going to be, and have shared that with us. We've been having a conversation in our committee about how is it going to function and what's going to happen with the operation, the governance of the facility. So we were approached by a group of residents, and I apologize, I read it first as a resident copying other ones. My mistake on that. But there was a group of interested residents who were looking to find out more about what we were doing and to have a discussion. And we took that back to committee and we had a discussion about it. And, you know, I'm a very big proponent of listening to the public and what they have to say and making sure volunteers are interested, that they're engaged. So what we've decided at the meeting was to host 2 meetings where we could open it up to say, hey, you know what, if you're interested in helping us work towards the next steps of what we're doing with the History House and how it's going to be governed and operated and what you would like to see as an interested resident in Torbay, then we want to hear from you. So we do know there's going to be an operating part of this, where there's an operational requirement from the town. And it's important to engage residents, to let them have a say and really get a good feel of what they want to see, because that's how we keep people engaged and using the facilities that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to plan 2 open house meetings. They will be on Zoom right now for safety for COVID. But we are going to invite all residents to come participate and have an open dialogue about what they want to see and how we're going to set that up. And the other thing that was referenced in that email, there was concern about making sure that we didn't lose sight of heritage and the importance of heritage in the community. And Mayor, I believe you responded to that and were very clear about that is a priority and is important for us. And that is certainly something I want to make sure residents know that we are thinking about. So as we move forward with this project over the next year, and as it's moved forward, we want to make sure that all interested residents who have an interest to have a voice, participate in any which way possible about putting this together, that we want to let you know that we're here and that we're willing to, we want to listen. There was also a discussion about donations, and because people have different artifacts and items and things that they want to donate, we really have to think about what we're going to do around donations and what that policy is going to look like, because we don't want to have so many items that we just can't fit in the building or use. So we did have a conversation about putting together criteria around that and bringing it back. But, you know, I've worked 30 years ago in a museum in Bjorn, and it's important to have the heritage and heritage items and artifacts there. It's just, I guess, clarifying how we go about accepting those donations and how that's going to fit within the plan. So we are working on that. And if you have anything that you want to donate, by all means, email Deanne or one of us, let us know, and we can certainly have a conversation about that. I think that hits the highlights of the meeting that we had. Councillor Martin or Mayor, is there anything that stands for you that you'd like to speak to about it?
No, thank you. A good report as presented.
No, I'm good. I just reiterate what you said about those volunteers and getting together with them to hear what they got, hear their opinions or what they got to say about heritage and the History House in particular. So I look forward to that.
Absolutely. Anyone else have any questions?
Good. All right.
No.
Thank you very much.
So ends my report. Thank you.
Moving on. Infrastructure and Public Works. Councillor Thorngott.
You're muted, Mary.
I was telling you you're on mute, and I was on mute telling you. Mary, you're still on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. We had our meeting on June 10th. Myself and Councillor Pollard and Director of the Infrastructure and Public Works, Brian Winter. 2020 projects, Ballfield Lights, tender package is scheduled to go out by starting June 15th and will close on June 30th. Country Drive, Shays Lane intersection, tender package is scheduled to be advertised starting June 15th and will close on June 30th. Flow meters, the request for proposals has closed and are being reviewed. History House committee reviewed the update in each phase of the project. We are currently at phase 4AB. Committee reviewed the preliminary concept package and it was agreed that the package would be shared with all council for review and comments. I'm not sure if anybody sent in any comments or what have you. I didn't see any. After review, the package agreed that it would recommend the concept package be approved. I have a motion here to accept the preliminary concept package and architecture plans as presented to the attached package attached dated May 20th, May 2020. So moved.
Second.
Moved, second. Any questions? Comments? No.
Again, this is just accepting of the package. There's no way, shape, or form any.
It's the design. It's the design of the interior of the building and the outside. Right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Sidewalks, the funding application has been approved. The next step is to draft an RFP for engineering design. So director is on top of that right now. To speed up the process, enable the town to work with a consultant that is more familiar with the town. Playground equipment, damage, structure and motion drive has been removed. The director is now pricing a new structure for the park. Couple there, no update. The road work, director noted that he is working with the town's consultant to determine the top streets to be completed next according to need and cost. Is also noted that Country Drive Culvert project cost is determined. We can move on with determining which streets are going to be completed. Like to get that our tender and what have you out so that we can start paving before the fall is the big one there. Speed calming, director provide the community with an update on the placement of speed bumps from previous years. And we're looking at putting in permanent speed bumps so that we can use the other ones in other areas of the town. There is money already budgeted for this, and from the review it was part of the original plan for speed calming. Bulk garbage cleanup went over really well. Wednesday 262, Thursday 335, Friday 226, and Saturday was 400. And there'll be another cleanup in the fall. Wastewater and water treatment committee asked the director to look in timelines on the ongoing testing with our water treatment and wastewater treatment projects. And that's it, I think.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Back to the sidewalks. It says here that we are next steps draft an RFP for engineering design.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why we're doing that, because we had an engineer put together for us a proposal for the application that went in the first place. So I know, babe, 1 minute. So I'm just wondering, why are we putting out another RFP for an engineering design if we've already had an engineering design put together to submit for the application? Why would we not use the design that we've already submitted? I'm not understanding why we're delaying there.
CAO is going to address that right now.
Okay, thanks.
So due to COVID, the provincial government, municipal affairs and environment, they increased the thresholds for engineering services. And as it relates to cost shared funding agreements, we could seek 3 quotes versus an RFP process. The Department of Municipal Affairs is aware of the work done to date, so that would be considered as part of the RFP. So the cost to engage an engineer to oversee the project would be severely reduced because we already have the design work done. But it is a condition of the federal funding that we do need to have an engineer in place for the project.
Okay, so just to clarify, so I understand, we're looking to update our current design. I'm still not sure. Like, if we've already have an engineering design in place, we've already have an engineer that did the work on it, why are we going to tender to get someone else for another design? I'm still not really sure.
It's to oversee the project as well too. It doesn't, it involves more than design, and government is aware that we already have preliminary design done as well too. So that will be reviewed with the department as part of that process.
I'm sorry. I know, baby, I know, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm really sorry because it's hard to do these meetings from home, and I've got small kids and they're really trying their best to get us to, it's a very long meeting. But I just want to make sure that this is not something that's going to hold us up where we've already got the engineering design done. And I don't want to have it, I want to make sure that because if it's going out and we're asking someone to provide proposal, we've already got a business who's put together the engineering design and given us that. Wouldn't it make sense to go back to them and say,
we were not going to be duplicating work already completed. It's a condition of the funding agreement that we do need to have an engineer in place to oversee the project. There will be no duplication of our work already we completed. That will be background. That will be background information that will be provided to the three that we seek the quote from.
Okay, I understand now. So sorry, it's just confusing with the kids. So we were going to take the engineering work that we have done, and this is to seek an engineering company that's going to oversee the work that's going to be done as per the conditions of the federal money.
Correct.
Right.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm clear and understand it. That's all. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. So do we have an idea of the timeline to turn that around, Don?
We will discuss, we'll send notification. I'm going to be meeting with the director in the morning, and we will, the department is already aware of the work to date and that the motion was coming for tonight for the agreement. So as soon as we can get the minister to sign off on it, we'll be fast tracking it as quick as we can with the goal to have the work completed this year.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Money needs to be spent this year, so we really need
Councillor Pollard.
Just on that note, my understanding would be that the engineer design that was done was not necessarily detailed in terms of the full dollar cost that we did it. The actual roads had to be looked at now and surveyed and specs put out there so that they can go to tender for the actual construction of the sidewalk. Right. First one was a high level design. This is going to be a much more detailed design. Because I wouldn't think we would have spent the money on the total engineer design up front when we get cost share dollars coming forward. And I was looking at the way projects are presented. You get an engineer to come in and do an estimate. They give you an estimate of what it is to put sidewalk based on certain unit cost criteria or whatever it is. But the actual details for someone to come in and say, okay, now ABC contract company, you've got to put this in place, and here are the specifications you got to do, right?
That's right. Yeah.
There was detailed design work done on that because we've submitted the application probably 3 times before. So I will forward the files to the director and he can reconfirm by committee, but there won't be any duplication of work that was previously done. So we can reconfirm. I'll ask the director to reconfirm that process once the drafting of the RFP in conjunction with Municipal Affairs and Environment is in process.
All right, thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. That it?
Mayor, I don't think there was a vote just then. I was me asking a question on the report.
There was no motion.
I said, what we vote on?
Yeah, we didn't.
The History House, which was already voted on.
That was sidewalks again. Sorry, guys. I asked a point of clarification on the engineering, and I think we're all just really tired.
We're all in favor of moving on. That's what I say. Come on.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry, I thought we were voting on the exact same thing again. That's what I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I'll save that one for later, another time. All right, so that is that report. Thank you very much. Where are we to? Recreation, Community Services. Councilor Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I apologize. I'm absolutely exhausted here. Just the meeting minutes from our Recreation Community Services meeting on June 9th. I was there as chair. Councilor Roach was there, as was the director of Recreation Community Services. We talked about a bunch of different items. Basically, we talked about Canada Day. Staff's coming up with the final plans for a virtual Canada Day. Basketball extenders we talked about earlier. We do have some tree planting coming up, so stay tuned for that. We've got staff trained up in a food safety course. And basically staff's working on the virtual market. It's basically an inter-team effort within staff. One second, let me move this down. Summer camps is the big thing. We had a lengthy conversation. We went over the guidelines and whether or not staff felt that the guidelines could be met, and if they can, in what capacity. I actually wanted to bring this back to a committee as a whole. Where it's really important. I think that the entire council should actually have a chance to review them and give recommendations to staff. I basically told Tina, put together what you can, do the best you can with what we got, and then come back to council. And she's got, as far as I know, a couple different streams of whatever way it goes. Basically, it's going to be virtual or whether the things can be met. So I just said we've got confidence in you to put together the best package possible, and let's review it. I guess hopefully, CEO, can we put that on the agenda for Monday or something?
That is the sole agenda item for Monday night, and the meeting invite has been already sent.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah. So once we meet there, we can get a final recommendation or final decision on what we're going to do. I'm really hopeful that we've been COVID free for virtually COVID free, I suppose, for a very long time. Things are opening back up. So I really think that the kids really need to see each other, right? But also, of course, we as adults are responsible. We need to make sure that they can do so in a safe environment. And I really hope that we're going to spare no expense, no effort to see, if possible, that both those things can occur simultaneously. We've got some program updates there. So just for your reference, you can take a look through there. Community Garden's going well. June is Recreation Month, of course. We've got seniors recognition coming up. We've got some July, stay active, stay engaged, stay connected. Things going on. Of course, we got Canada Day. We actually talked a lot about a drive-in movie and story time. It's actually a really interesting thing for the drive-in movie. We can see, if possible, we could actually pull it off. I think that'd be a fantastic thing for the town to get involved in. Something we can do, set it up, and everyone would just love it. I think the bathrooms are basically our main concern. And then another good thing, good initiative, we actually talked about having a little video game competition. Of course, with COVID and everything, a lot of people have been staying home, lots, and of course, video games get more and more popular. And that'd be really cool to have a video game tournament competition within Torbay, right? So you got the you got the Scots versus the Applebee's versus the Gallants versus the Martins, and we all play Mario Kart and all that kind of stuff. It's a really good way to stay socially connected while physically distanced and have a bit of fun in the process. So that should be come up soon. And so is my report.
Thank you. And next week, we're likely on Thursday going to be moving to level 2. So I guess our staff are going to have to readjust at that point when the new regulations come out to what's going to be what. So it's a moving target. And I don't think that people understand, at least in the public, that our staff and towns and municipalities don't find out what the regulations are until the general public finds them out. People seem to think that we get the inside track and we know what's happening before it happens and that we're having feedback or input into these decisions, and none of that is the case. So I just wanted to make that clear to people that, I know they get frustrated and they're waiting for what takes the town so long to be able to make these decisions. Well, it's important stuff, and we need to make sure that we're acting within the guidelines of the government, and we don't find out what they are until, the last minute, same as everybody else. Thank you.
Just one last thing, regardless of phase, I just want to just very quickly do all of council, regardless of what it is, of course, prevention of viruses passing, whether it's COVID or not. I think we all learned a big lesson for different things. So regardless of what level we are, if August, so there's no more bubbles, there's no more guidelines. I certainly hope that we continue a commitment to cleanliness and just good practice, good health practice going forward in all aspects of the town.
Anybody got questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I understand that we're going to have a committee of the whole meeting next week to discuss safety around COVID and opening of facilities. But I just want to clarify, are we going to make the decision then as well about what's going to happen with the organizations that want to use the facilities? Because I think it's important that the public doesn't understand either. I don't know that they do, that the organizations like softball and soccer and those sorts of groups, they need the permission of the town council to use that facility. And we as a council have to be very careful about making sure people are safe and that there's safe use of those facilities. So I just want to be clear, and maybe if we could ask CAO to speak to or Councillor Glant, I'm not sure if you guys discussed it at your committee, but if we could have a conversation about what the protocols are, what organizations can expect around town facilities.
I can speak to that very briefly, and CEO can fill in any gaps that we may have. We can have a more detailed discussion about this at our committee of the whole meeting. But just in summary, again, CEO, tell me if I'm fibbing here. But all organizations it's going to be their responsibility to submit their plans. Like how we're not going to tell them you need to do X, Y, and Z. They basically need to come up with their own things. Say, hey, we're going to do A, B, and C. We say, okay, that's good, that's bad. We're not going to be we're not basically enforcing or sending stuff down to them. It's just they're going to tell us what their best practices are, and we're going to say, yeah, that's good, that's bad, or not. Is that the case? Actually, I think is director here still.
We kind of need to have a template. Do we? I mean, you'll be shooting in the dark if we don't know what the town requires.
I think that we're a little bit ahead of our discussion because we need to wait until the Director of Community Services brings this stuff to us at our committee of the whole meeting Monday. And they're still going through the COVID regulations to figure out how to go about using facilities with regards to particular team play and organizations and stuff like that. So it's probably a little premature. It's hard to tell the groups what it is until we actually figure it out on our own. So maybe we'll wait until Monday.
I think it's just important to make sure that organizations know that we don't have the answers yet ourselves either, and we're still trying to make sure we're doing the safest thing we can. Because I know
the organizations, we don't have all the answers yet. We're going to meet on Monday, and as soon as we figure it out, we'll let you know right away.
Great. All right. I just want to make sure that's clear. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Where are we to? Where am I at? Liaison Committees. Atlantic Mayors Congress. I don't really have an update, but I did get an email last week. They're tentatively looking at the next meeting in Summerside, PEI in September. But I mean, that's all going to be COVID dependent. So I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Don't have much of an update here with, I guess, intergovernmental. We've been having a lot of discussions with M&L lately, with the provincial government and with FCM trying to move forward issues related to COVID-19 and additional operating costs that municipalities maybe need some support with. So we're working on that. Jack Bernarina, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just trying to get myself organized with one screen here too now. The financial information is provided. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone?
I have it. It's just more of a comment. And we're on hour number 3 now, and page 360 of 400. I was wondering, can we just bring this back to the next meeting? Is this pertinent for us to go over tonight?
Well, the financial the financial documentation is there and was provided for council to review. So if there's no questions, that's fine. I just wanted to be ready for them, and I had some answers here if there were any. So I'm just looking at a different screen here myself as well now.
I would love the question and stuff like that. I know we're just accepting, but I just don't have the physical mental stamina right now to go.
I would recommend for any of those reports from Jack Bernarina Council can view them at their leisure, and the next time that we ask about liaison committees, if they have their questions, they can add some in.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you have any
That's all I was
questions,
looking
by all means. And just one more point, I want a point of clarification. When I mentioned earlier about the in the community services conversation about organizations, I should have declared that I am the chair of the Northeast United Soccer Club. I know council is aware of that, but I just wanted to be very clear and transparent that I do hold that seat and I do sit on that board. And I'm just making sure that people understand, that our residents understand, that us as council members don't have information for the organizations, because I just want to, because I have an understanding that there's some communication there. I want to be clear about it. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Northeast
Councillor
Avalon
Powell?
Joint Council. Tony Pollard, question.
Sorry, I didn't
Or
want
Don
to.
has
Sorry.
one. Hang on.
See you, Don.
I was just going to, Deputy Mayor, I don't know if you want to draw council's attention to the meeting on the lease agreement.
Yes, I do.
We'll retable at the next council meeting. We'll bring forth all the reports as per previous suggestion, but that letter is
Yes.
time sensitive.
Thank you. I apologize for missing that. We're all exhausted here. There was a letter that was sent to the towns looking to get a meeting put together in July 9th, I believe. I'm just trying to find it here now.
Yes, July 9th.
So we're looking for members of council to come together to work on the, I can't remember now if it was management lease agreement, like out on the tires. But to put together the management lease agreements for the building. And what happens is the management board oversees the facility, but as owners, the towns are the owners of the facility, and we need to work together to hammer out those agreements. So what we're looking for are any members of council that are interested to join a Zoom meeting on the 9th of July to let us know, so that you can be part of a collective of the 4 towns working together to go down line by line through that agreement to make sure that we can get something hammered out and agreed to that we can bring back to council. This has been outstanding for the last 2 years and has never been able to get resolved and put it to bed. So we're looking for any member of council that may be interested to join us for that meeting, July 9th, to make sure that we have a strong agreement in place for how we're going to manage the arena. So if anyone's interested, if you could let us know so we can get back to the board and let them know that you'll be participating. Any takers?
We'll make sure we circulate that out to council this week.
Okay.
All right. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Torngas, Northeast Avalon Joint Council.
No report.
God love you. For all the flag establishment, no report, except that we need more of them down here getting them bikes off the road. I just got another email that time. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Very brief report. 12 calls since their last meeting. We had a meeting on Zoom last Monday night. 2 alarm bells, 1 grass fire, 2 structure fires, 1 chimney fire, 4 medical calls. Some wires down, request to assist. They're still busy, but they're staying safe and practicing good physical distancing measures in their training and whatnot, and starting to get back to some normality. I do know there was an incident in Flat Rock today that many of the first responders responded to, and I hope those injured are well and safe. Other than that, that ends my report.
Perfect, thank you. Next one is Urban Municipalities Committee. I'll just briefly say that we had our meeting on May 23rd. Our caucus, we discussed COVID-19 effect on municipalities. We were lucky enough to have Bill Carson, the president of FCM, join our meeting to give us an update on FCM's advocacy work with the federal government to try and they're always trying to help municipalities, but to get their issue pushed forward with the operating income for municipalities. So I won't go in any further than that. We did a Zoom meeting. It was the first one that we've ever done, and hopefully we'll do we'll do another one soon, but sooner we can get back to meeting in person, the happier I'll be. But anybody have any questions about that? Good, thank you. Moving along, there's no notice motion. New business. Quick thank you or whatever you got. Start off with Councillor Glenn.
Okay, just real brief, I just wanted to say a big thank you to the staff. I know we're all exhausted mentally and all that from the quarry vote, and hey man, this is a tough job, and we got to weigh the evidence when it comes through for for appeal purposes and all that. We got a lot of stuff to weigh, a lot of documents. So staff, I think, did a wonderful job. They made it easy to view the documentation that was submitted. Of course, we had packages for how things got to meet, and of course I guess the councillors sometimes had a bit of a disagreement for how to interpret different things, but we actually were civil and stuff like that. We pulled it off to do this good meeting, and I just want to thank staff for the phenomenal work. I think this the second to none. I think it's one of the best, most well put together packages, etc. that I've seen since I've been involved in politics. And again, I just want to thank council for I don't care how anyone voted, right? But this is we take this as a team and organization, but we all did our best to interpret things as they need to do. So I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work that we all put there as a council organization, because we're here to represent the citizens, and I'm confident we all did the best we could to represent the rules, regulations, and will of the townspeople that we're lucky enough to be able to represent. So I won't belabor anything. I think you know exactly what I mean, etc. So just thank you staff, thank you council, and thank you people at Trebay and everyone involved. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll keep this short, I guess, but it's very important. I think I don't have seen stance by many towns or our own town or other towns either, but I just got to say the whole Black Lives Matter movement, I think, is crucially important, and we should recognize that, and we should recognize everybody affected by that. There was actually biochemistry student, and I had it in my memory last week. I think his name was Jimmy. He called into the open line and he talked about it, and it wasn't until then that I said that I've got to say something about it, because if you look at Newfoundland, and Newfoundland is pretty well isolated from a lot of things that are ongoing, and Black Lives Matter doesn't necessarily strike home here as it should. But if we look at some of our colloquialisms and some of the things we use, are certainly embedded in our culture, and it is systemic, and we just don't realize. I think it's very important, and he brought that point out loud and clear. So I want to say kudos to him for getting on open line saying that. I think everybody should realize that and work best to acknowledge those inconsistencies in our culture. That's it, Your Worship.
All right, thank you. Councillor Torngas.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to the staff, and for once I'll just say ditto to what Councillor Glenn said, because he summed it all up really well. So thank you to everybody involved with the fall, especially Julia, where she came in and not knowing anything about the staff, and we put her in an awkward situation and never dealt with a query application before. So all hands involved, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Martin. You're muted, buddy.
I was talking away. I also want to take that moment to say thank you. I spoke with ATVs earlier, but I want to take a brief moment to thank all of our staff, as well as all essential and frontline workers. Especially the police. I know, as Councillor Pollard said, the world's certainly evolving, but I particularly want to thank the RNC for everything they do, keeping us safe. I know they are under scrutiny now with being defunded and whatnot, but I'm a strong believer of all racial, gender equality and everything, and fundamental human rights. Even the unborn. But with regards to the police, I wanted to give them a special thank you to all the good people within the organization for what they do, and our fire department and all other first responders, essential and frontline workers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, trying to unmute here. I wanted to have a couple thank yous. Number one, to my kids. They've been here for a long time tonight, and they've done their very best to support me to do my role with council. So thank you to them for being so cool when I'm doing COVID meetings from home. They can get exciting from time to time. I'd like to thank council. This term of council has raised the bar on how we do our business. You know, we're really trying to make an effort to listen to residents. We're really trying to make sure that these, you know, applications when they're coming in are being received in a way where they're meeting the criteria of what we need to have. And this was the big win in this whole process here was the bar was raised to how we go about looking at next developments and where we're going to go from there and what is to be expected. So I'd just like to thank fellow members of council. I'd like to thank the staff who worked very hard on this file. And I really appreciate all of your time, effort, and energy on that. And I'd like to pass along condolences, if I could, to all the families who are dealing with COVID and trying to deal with losses in their family. I just went through that this weekend. And I know that the Deputy Mayor of Paradise has lost her mom. So condolence to her and the family of Helen Laurie McGraw. I know that family, she's also connected to Torbay, and just wanted to let people know that we're thinking about them during these very difficult and different times. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you. I just got a couple of quick things that I'm going to mention. I want to say congratulations to all the 2020 grads. I know I did do a video in conjunction with the school newsletter that they're going to be coming out, that'll hopefully come out soon. Congratulations to all the little kids who are going to be moving from elementary school to the middle school, from middle school to the high school. You know, it's been a tough year. It's not something that well, obviously nobody's used to, but hopefully the next year will be better than this year. You know, it's got to be tough on families right now. So I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to for something else that I wanted to talk about, but I think that to Tony's point about the Black Lives Matter piece and the greater social consequences of that in general, I was very disturbed last week when I had to go up to South Pond and see a racial slur painted on the pavement, and some of our infrastructure was damaged. I took pictures and forwarded them to the CAO. I did not post them on social media, even though someone did get ahead of me, and that's how I learned about it. You know what? That's not good enough. That's not good enough for our town. And that if somebody sees that stuff, you need to point that out, because not only is it destruction of private property, that's the least of it. That is not the type of attitude that we need to have. And I don't see that in our town very often. I don't think it's something that we have to deal with all the time, but to have to deal with it once is enough for me. You know, I don't, this Torbay is a place where everybody should feel welcome, and that's part of our mission statement and part of our value statement as a town. So with that in mind, I am done for tonight. I'm really done. But I do have a question from a resident. We have one, and it's from Madeline Florent. And her question is, I'll read it out to council and you can hear it. Why is council not resuming bi-weekly council meetings until August? Most other towns in Northeast Avalon have already resumed meeting every 2 weeks. Paradise, Portugal Coast, St. Phillips, Flarock, and Luggy Bay, Middle Cove, Outer Cove. Given the length of today's agenda, the fact that we were entering the busy development season, and the fact that meetings of the committee of the whole have been held to deal with everyday issues, I think council should go back to meeting every 2 weeks. Thank you, Madeline, for your question. What I will say is that we are evaluating how we can adapt ourselves to the current COVID conditions and regulations that the government puts out for us. It's something that we're looking at all the time. Now that level 2 is going to be coming quicker than we had anticipated. It's a discussion that council will have again, and we'll see if we can, how often we can do our meetings or whatever. But CAO got a point that she wants to make.
Mayor, we should have it reflected for the record that there was another request by Denise Hodder, and midpoint through the meeting, she requested that her email be withdrawn.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, Madeline, stay tuned. Hopefully, and listen, there's nobody around that would be rather meeting every 2 weeks and in person than me. I can tell you that, because this Zoom stuff got me drove. But with that, we got to make sure that we're doing everything safe and protect the staff and protect our families and protect council and protect the residents. And with that, I would entertain a motion, please. Oh, hang on.
So moved.
Our next public council meeting is scheduled to take place on Monday, July 20th, tentatively at 6:30. And it is currently scheduled to be a remote digital meeting. If there is any change into how we plan on doing it, it will be posted through the town's regular means. So with that motion.
So moved.
Martin, seconder, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.